Welcome back to the podcast, guys. It's Latte and Foam. I'm Yana, and that's Kayla. We're definitely split screen right now. We're in two separate locations, just like our last video. Anyway, today we have a special installment for you, as we've been waiting to do this video for like basically a year.
We've been telling you guys that we're gonna post this, and I'm so sorry, literally a year.
So now we're being truthers, and yes, we are going to talk about our favorite game ever, Dreamy Days in West Tokyo. We're going to give you a boy rank. We're going to also talk about the setting, the plot, all that good stuff. So buckle up. And if you have not played the game, go download any route you want to. It's on Love 365. It's a great price. I love the game.
Yes, people always ask me about this because I posted a boy rank of Dreamy Days. I think it was my first boy rank I did like forever ago when I was just doing this on my own. And everyone still goes to that video and comments like, this app doesn't exist anymore. Where can I find it? Look up Love 365 and it's in there. If you go, it's kind of a difficult app to navigate, but if you go to like these genres, it's going to be under school life, and it's Dreamy Days in West Tokyo. But yes, like she was saying, spoilers ahead, heavy spoilers ahead. This is a podcast style, so we're not going to do like anything quick. We're going to be getting fully into our thoughts because we have so many thoughts. We both read this game like countless times. I couldn't even tell you how many times I've played Dreamy Days. I've replayed the prologue a bunch of times, all the routes a bunch of times, season 2s, 10 years later specials. Same with Yana.
Yeah, it's definitely my comfort game. I like when I'm having a bad day, I'll just pull up a special. When I am just bored, I'll play it. If I want to go to sleep, I'll play it. The music, everything. I love the game. There's so many things that I can say about this game. So we'll just start with just discussing what the plot is. Basically what happens is you grew up in this town, Kichijoji, West Tokyo, and you had a group of friends. Your friends' names are Haru, Ichigo, Ryu, Take, and Rihito. I think I said Rihito. Maybe I didn't. I don't know. There's 5 friends. And
yeah,
you also...
I think you got them all.
Yeah, and then there is another love interest that comes later, but I'll explain that part after. Anyway, when you were about 7, I think you were going into like basically would be first grade, your parents get a job and you move. And obviously don't tell you where you move. That's like not a problem, but we'll get into that after. Anyway, so 10 years have now passed. You're now 16. It's technically, I think, no, you're almost 17. So you're in your second year of high school, and you come back and you move in with Johji, who's an old friend as well, and you decide to go back and you run into in the town all of your old best friends. Richie, who you thought was a girl, you run into Haru, Ichigo, Ryu, and Take all over again, and you find out they're going to go to school with all of them other than Richie because he goes to a private school. And basically all the memories come flooding back to your childhood, and one of these lovely boys are your first ever love. And that's basically the sped up version of what the prologue is, and what the premise of the game is that you're coming back to a town after 10 years, and are those feelings the same of your first love? So yeah.
Yes, and I'm going to play the video in post right now so you guys can get a little snippet of it. So yeah, we'll play that right now. Coming back, one thing I do want to say, 2 points just generally. One, I love the localized title, Dreamy Days in West Tokyo. I can't remember the exact title in Japanese, but I like that they decided to change Kichijoji to West Tokyo, even though that's not like a direct translation of that word. It's just a city that is in West Tokyo. So I like the way it sounds. I feel like it works really well for an English-speaking audience. And then 2, I really love the music. Me and Jan both listen to the music in this game all the time. We're gonna overlay it in the background so you can just kind of vibe with it. It never gets old, it never gets annoying. It's very relaxing. I like listen to it when I take a bath. I love that. But yeah, as far as like she just pretty much gave the plot, like that's it. It's a pretty simple plot. It's like a 10 years later. You're gonna get lots of flashbacks with you and the kids when they're younger, and then seeing them now and just kind of who they've become and surprise you. And Johji is a pen pal of your mom, and so she basically says you can live with him. and he owns a restaurant called Black Ship. And Black Ship is where all of the boys in town meet up, because it's like this one main shopping street, and that's how it is in real Kichijoji too. There's like a main street. We actually have backgrounds of it, and we have some scenes in it in Manager's Route in our game Evermore, so definitely check that out. We'll kind of show you a comparison of like how our artist did it and then how Voltage's artist did it. But each of them own shops on this one street. Ryuzo owns, his dad owns a vegetable shop that he works at. Haru's parents own a flower shop that he works at. Take owns a bathhouse, or his grandmother owns a bathhouse that he works at. Ichigo's dad owns a bakery that he works at. And then obviously Johji owns Black Ship, which is like a cafe. They have coffee, hot cocoa, and then just some meals, like family restaurant kind of meals, like spaghetti and stuff like that. And you live on the second floor of Black Ship.
Yeah, and did you say, Richie has, like, his parents do, like, his mom, he lives just with his mom.
Richie.
And she runs piano lessons, and so she has a piano shop downstairs. When it starts out, Richie's fatherless.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So also Richie is Rihito. We didn't explain that, but that's like his little nickname. It's actually not his nickname in the Japanese version. I believe they just call him like Ri-chan or something like that. But they say Richie. I love it. Like, I went back and played the Japanese version for a little bit, and I was like, I just can't get into it because I'm so obsessed with like the way they localized it. Like, this is a really good job.
I really do like the way they localize it. I also liked, and I don't think they do it in the Love 360. No, yeah, they do. And I liked it in the original app. They actually show you the map of like where you are living and stuff. So a place that they all played at when they were younger, it's actually really prevalent in everybody's route, is the Octopus Park, where there's this like octopus slide. I liked that. You can kind of see where it is from school to where everybody hangs out. So I really thought that was a super cute element, because that's just kind of puts you kind of more into it. I like Johji, who you live with, as your mom's pen pal, which doesn't come up in like enough as it should have, but we'll get into that like once we get into his boy rank.
That's one thing I want to say about the overall plot, is they don't get into enough as they should have, like almost ever, about the general plot.
No,
they just kind of say like, a mom's friend let me come back here. It doesn't really say why you wanted to come back here. Why did you want to move away from where you were in the first place? You find out that it's probably the UK based on something that happens in Joji's route, because that's where her parents are still. But it's unknown. You don't know what her parents do. They could be travelers and they're just always going everywhere. So that could have not even been where she was. She could have been in Japan still. But that whole thing is a plot hole that me and Jan ignored for many, many years until we started making it. Yeah. But we only first talked about it like when we made our company, basically. We were like, actually, this is a plot hole.
Yeah, it is, because I do remember in even Ichigo's kind of like later in seasons that they mentioned that they're in UK. And also, we're just going to break down boy rank by the first season, not all of them, just to be transparent. But yeah.
But we'll still chat about the other stuff after.
But yeah, that was something that you and I had talked about. What kind of, as we got more nitty gritty into looking at Snowkiss Evermore and stuff, when we're thinking about plot holes, and obviously we're not perfect, but one of the comments that I would always make, and I'm like, why couldn't if her mom could be a pen pal to Johji, like, why couldn't she keep in touch with her other friends? And like, I don't understand why she couldn't just call them. Like, there's so many things that just were very bluntly missed, but I ignored when I played, and I still ignore it as like, oh, but I just love them. And it's like this epic thing where you come back 10 years later and it seems so great. But when you ask questions like, well, why didn't you write them? Like, all of those things. There's some other plot holes too that like, and each individual route that I didn't like is that how certain things play out. So like, her first love changes based on whoever the route is on, but it definitely negates things that don't make sense. And that's something that we complain that Otome does all the time. It negates it. I don't like it. So yeah, I don't like that they kind of just ignore all that stuff.
Yeah, and it's hard because it is like a 10 years later kind of situation. So it's like, that can obviously change. I shouldn't say it's hard. It's easier because they could have made it been one particular person that she was in love with back then, but it's now 10 years later, so she's open to fall in love with anybody else. It'd be harder if it were a more recent scenario, because obviously who you're in love with wouldn't change. But yeah, so they could have done that a lot better. And this is actually a perfect segue into our sponsor for this podcast, Lovely Ink. Ko-Fi account. So
Yes.
Dreamy Days is what inspired us to write Snow-Kissed Romance. As you may be able to pick up on, there are some similar themes in the fact that you have friends, except they all move away, a friend group when you were younger, and then later you all meet up, obviously, at the ski resort, sorry. And there were plot holes that we kept with that, and that we like didn't really explain why I shouldn't keep in contact and everything like that. So it's been our mission since we wrote that so long ago when we were very young and new writers. We have so many ideas to revamp this, and we are going to revamp it completely. We're going to upgrade the story, the art, the music, everything about Snow-Kissed Romance. And if you would like to help support us in doing so and make it hit the market quicker, we are going to be developing it for console, as well as it will be available on mobile and Steam. But yeah, it is a lot more expensive since we have a lot of things we're planning to add into it. Check out our Ko-Fi for more details, and yeah, buy us a coffee if you have the means to and you feel like it.
Yeah, and also if you also feel like you don't want to just buy us a coffee or you want to support in a different way, definitely go check out all of our Evermore specials if you haven't bought them, and Evermore Route, all of that awesome stuff. Share, like all of our posts because we love all the support that we get. So yeah, that's our plug for now.
Yes, thank you. Back to the video.
Yes, but kind of what you were saying, like back to like the plot, like she could obviously later on fall in love with somebody else, but what I think got me was that like she would like promise or say like he was the first person I ever said I love you, or we said we were going to get married when we got older. And it's not that it's impossible as a kid when you're a child just say all of these things, but the way that they kind of, you know, put these memories in is that it's a very significant thing to her, and that's what triggers the like I'm still like this is the person that I was first ever in love with, or we always said we were going to get married. And it's like if you said that in Ichigo's and then you also said it in Haru's, but then you said it in Ryu's, it kind of muddies it and takes away from it.
Like all of the flashbacks are taking place in the same timeline. So it's like, were you just being a little whore? Or like, this is just the universes don't match up. I would say even like with what we did with Snow-Kiss when we did produce it years ago, we did still keep it the same simultaneously of how things happen in the flashback.
Yeah, I think that's an important piece to how we've always done everything. When you play Evermore and stuff, how I view Otome games in general, how I would like them to be, and something that I, again, hate to like, you know, poop on Otome, but I don't like when certain events change because it cheapens characters. A character can character assassinate later. That's always not the case, but it's also like all these things could simultaneously happen at the same time. Like it doesn't, the end result or the way that they all play out might be slightly different when the MC is obviously not involved in it or like those kind of things, but if this event occurs, it should actually probably occur all the time.
Yes.
Like a good example, again, spoiler alert, like in Cupid Parasite, the way that she acts or whatever Shelby's going through, that's a consistent thing that should always happen, and it shouldn't change just because she's with Gil. And same vice versa, like things shouldn't be inadvertently ruined like that, you know what I mean? So
yeah, so for example, in like a fictitious world, if there's 4 characters and one of these characters, when you play his route, he ends up being called to move away for work after so many months. If I'm playing a different person's route and it comes to that December, let's say, where that person is supposed to move away, they should still move away in the other person's route. Like, that's how I feel to keep it with continuity. But yeah, and we try to do that with all of our games. But yeah, so there are plot holes with the general plot. We didn't really plan to...
Also, why didn't she have friends?
Yeah, that's the other big thing.
No
she never has friends. She doesn't get them until like the second season and beyond. She gets like a couple of friends in college, but she never has any like gal pals in high school, and she never has any gal pals. Well, there's sometimes side characters like in Take's, for example, where she does get kind of a gal pal, but
she has like no past friends. Because you would think like, I'm just saying, I would use us as an example. Like, so Kayla, obviously, we've gone to school since we were little kids, and then I think it was our sophomore year, no, junior, either way, like she went like homeschooled and then like that, and it wasn't like you and I just never saw each other again and never talked. It was like, okay, like I miss my friend, and like that's like past you and your other friends, you know what I mean? Like that would have been just so
we
random.
were older though, so like I would understand if we had separated at like, so however old they were, like 7 years old, I think it would be if it's 10 years later. But
I'm not meaning in the sense of childhood friends. I mean, like, just past friends in general. Like, let's say you moved states. Like,
yes,
you moved to
okay,
California.
that's what I'm saying too. Yeah, because I thought you meant like her past friends when she was younger. I was like, but it was just all of them. But yes, what we have talked about before too is like when she moved to wherever she moved, she didn't make any friends because she does not talk about them. She doesn't call back to them. She's not like, hey, like, Amy, I made it to Japan again. Like, here's some photos. Like, nothing. Like, it's just very weird. She just basically, like, poofs into the world. Like, it's kind of like Mystic Messenger, how she just, like, poofs into the world. Like, there's no backstory for the MC, like, to speak of at all.
Yeah, it's like a red flag as hell. Like, that seems weird that you don't have any other friends.
But when I played it for the first time, this is my very first Otome game. I don't know if I mentioned that, but it was like literally the very first one. And I did not care whatsoever or think about it whatsoever because it's very much wish fulfillment. It's very much like self-insert, and it's so easy to self-insert into her because they obviously don't show her on the screen much, like sometimes in CGs, and it's like at the tippy top of her head or something. But also, like, she has no story. Like, so there's nothing for me to not relate to, but there's also nothing really for me to relate to. I just can wish fulfill that I'm in a scenario with these guys. But yeah. We didn't really plan to numerically rate the plot or something like that. Do you want to, or do you want to just dive into ranking the boys?
I wouldn't know what I would give the plot ranking, to be honest. I think we just get into the guys. I think that's just like our general thoughts of everything. I will say, as like, you know, seasons went on, sometimes like the plot, I don't know. Yeah, we'll just get into it later. So let's get into the boys. Let's like get into it.
One last thing. Sorry, I could talk about this game forever. I keep thinking of like things I want to say about it. The ensemble cast is so good. Like, just within the prologue and like always forever, every special, they're just so good. It's a group of friends who've been friends forever, so obviously you would expect that, but they nailed the writing of them. I think the group is so funny. Like, I could just watch them go on adventures and MC not even be included and enjoy it because they're literally so much fun together. And also, we said that she's her second year of high school. Japan only has 3 years of high school because there's also 3 years of middle school. So she would still be 17. Just want to clarify that for anyone that's like, that seems like she would be younger. But she's like a junior, like almost a senior.
Yeah. I also would say Voltage does a really good job. Other than an Even If Tempest, I will forever talk down about that game. But other than an Even If Tempest, Voltage has, in my opinion, always done a really good job of ensemble cast. Like, that makes the game an enjoyable, even when the game itself isn't the greatest. I remember when we were playing and doing the boy rank for Kiss by the Baddest Bitter, I really did like them as an ensemble cast because they were funny and they played off of each other. Butler Until Midnight is such a great ensemble cast with each other. Oh my god.
10 Days with My Devil.
Great ensemble cast. Scandal in the Spotlight. You know what I mean? Even Be My
Star-Crossed Smith.
Star-Crossed Smith has probably the best ensemble cast I've ever seen because they're all supposed to be like beef and like there's so many of them, and I love that they're just the cutest. But yeah, even Be My Princess.
Be My Princess, because they're not together, you would think, because they're in different countries, but they have these like royal meetings where they convene and they always have like the funniest dialogue.
Yeah, so I really enjoy the ensemble cast. I love that they kind of go into it and that what I love is that they never character assassinate any of the other characters just because you're not with them. That is just such a qualm I've seen in other Otome games where I'm like, I don't even see why I would play any other guy now because I've now just been assassin. That just seems like bad. But yeah, so now we can get into the boy rank. I just wanted to say that. Yeah,
and also, we like keep adding stuff. Also, anything that we say about this game critical, I just want to say, like, I think it's a perfect game. I think it's 100%, a 10 out of 10. I'm just trying to be as realistic as possible when doing this.
Yeah, I'm gonna still play it.
Yeah, if you're looking for something relaxing, you're looking to laugh, to smile, to have something play in bed before you fall asleep, this is the best game to do it. It's absolutely perfect in every way to me. I love it so much. But starting off with this boy rank, we're going to get into the one thing that me and Jan truly dislike about this game. It's the only component. Everybody else is perfect. Do you just want to go ahead and introduce the canon character of this game, like secondary canon? Actually, the main canon's Ichigo, I would say. But I would say he could also have canon trait secondary, and this is going to be Haru.
Yes, Haru. So we ranked him number 5 on the list. Haru's route was very like pick me energy. So he reminds me of like the character that's like can do no wrong, is very perfect, and like has all these great traits, and he's just great at everything, and he has like one character flaw, and it's like not really a flaw, it's just something that's stupid, and he has no substance to him, and so like he has no real problems. So Haru is the one with the black hair. He's runs his parents' flower shop after school. He has a little sister, so he's like the perfect Oni-chan, and he was so boring.
He has a little bit of a sister complex. We couldn't decide whether, I thought it might have been a little creepy, but then the way she described it, I was like, oh, I guess it could be cute. But her name's Sai, and he just is like very protective over her.
Yeah, if you guys have ever watched Maid-sama and you know Kitamura, and I just want to plug this in. If you've watched Maid-sama and then you've watched My Hero Academia, Kitamura and Deku are actually the same person. Anyway, but in the episode where Kitamura wants to basically impress his sister and be the prince in his life, that's kind of how I viewed Haru and his sister. I think that like he just wants like to make her happy and be like the apple of her eye because she was so like enamored with him, as you know sisters tend to be of their older brothers. But yeah, so anyway, getting into his route, so you come back into town and everybody's kind of just like ambushing you, and Haru is like, you know, why don't I just show you around? And you're like, yeah, of course, I want to see the flower shop. He has like the flower shop, it's cool, whatever. And then he's like, why don't we all just hang out? And he calls you by your last name the most. I don't think, like, even when I think you guys get together, he's like, so I put Raven in, so he's like, Raven. I'm like, get over it.
Yeah, that's because I think his personality is like super polite and proper. He is like the most popular one in school, and like all the girls from school come to the flower shop.
Oh, they all have fan clubs. So Take, Ichigo, and Haru have a fan club. I think Ryu kind of does. He's older, so Ryu is the oldest one.
He gets one in like that one part of the route.
Yeah, Rihito also is pretty popular at his school. But anyway, so Haru was like, let's hang out. And then basically the town has a little like drill to prevent if there's like a fire or something. And it's actually kind of a cute scene because like Ryu takes it very serious. So he's like,
I love
brushing the buckets. And then you and Haru get, I think, stuck in the shed. I can't remember fully. Anyway, so then you kind of hurt your ankle, and he carried between Ichigo and Haru. So this starts the love triangle. You can either ask if you want Haru to take you out or Ichigo. Not sure why they would give you a choice like that, but okay, because I chose Ichigo.
Every single time.
Anyway, that kind of sparks the start of the love triangle. Anyway, you're at school, and Haru basically is showing you around, and the girls are kind of mean to you because you're close to him, and he's tries to help you out, but he kind of makes it worse. Anyway, you get partnered up with Haru to decide where you're going to go with for the school. I personally think that their choice was really kind of like out of nowhere. But anyway, you guys decide to go to a farm.
Yeah, it's like a farm area.
Yeah, so then this is when you find out Haru's one true character flaw, and it's that Haru can't draw because you have to make the pamphlets. And I just want to say, Japanese schools versus American schools, like, they really are like put you through the ringer. They're like, you got to be independent and do all this stuff. But anyway, so then
I thought they learned that when they were at that like what is it called, like a flea market situation.
That was like when he did it again, so she already knew by the time they go. So anyway, you guys are on your way to go to the petting zoo farm thing, and this is something that happens in a lot of Voltage games, and I'm not really sure why, but you guys to go to see the pigs, and then everyone calls you a pig, and Haru's like, haha, oink oink, like calls you a pig, and that alone was like enough for me. Yeah. So then anyway, you guys are then in like arts and crafts times, like you're not like, there's nothing wrong with arts and crafts, but it just seemed really like juvenile.
I know, they're like making like daisy chains and stuff, which is like cute, but it's like, we're not in kindergarten.
the daisy chain, oh my god, it's actually a really comical moment because it basically Ichigo tells they're making the daisy chain like bookmarked or something, and like Ichigo gets a flower he doesn't know and like shoves it in Haru's face and is like, what's this flower? And he's like, I don't know. And he's like, aren't you a flower, like, don't, you're in the flower shop, you're useless. Anyway, I love Ichigo. And anyway,
that's one thing I want to side note, because that's like a perfect example of it. All of the other guys shine really well in Haru's route because Haru is so plain and boring that everything interesting that happens is because of the other guys. Like we just said, Ryu made that other scene interesting. Now Ichigo is kind of making the rest of the route interesting because they do that triangle thing where they pit them against and you can choose who you want to be with, Ichigo or Haru, in like little brief scenes constantly.
Yeah, so in this case, you and Haru make like matching like keychain things together and you're gonna put it on your phone at all times. Fine. Any hooser goes. Then you guys are like hanging out and you're kind of down on yourself about like your career because they're making you do career surveys and like you don't know what you want to do yet, which I would just like to say, like, it was like her first week back and they're like shoving it down her throat, like, what are you gonna do? And it's like, calm down. So anyway, she doesn't really know what she wants to do, and then like the flea market comes up and her and Haru get into their first argument. And this actually, when Caleb was playing Haru's route the first time, her and I like definitely, we debated about it, like why like the MC was kind of like, you know, a B, or why Haru was a B. They get like into it about like, she has no idea because she's been gone for 10 years. Like, who is she to say, oh, that's why? Because, and I do like now in more mature mindset thinking about it, she kind of just said like, you all have like set careers. You're gonna be at the flower shop, Ichigo has the bakery. Like, what do I have? And it's like, who are you to say that to somebody? Because you have no idea what the truth is, and they've worked really hard at it. That's not, you know, that's not their fault. So Haru like lashed out on her and went off on her, and so they get into it and she kind of runs away and cries. I'm not really like a super fan of her in this moment. And then they make up and she's still really down about herself, and this scene really pissed me off. And so they asked to like get you out of the house for the day, and Haru's like, let's go hang out. And I chose to go to the beach, and we don't go to the beach.
Same. I was so annoyed. It's like beach or arcade, and then you choose beach and he's like, anyways, let's go to the arcade. And I'm like, what?
Don't give me that choice then.
Like, what the hell?
So, yeah.
Also, going back to that previous conflict, I wanted to mention, like, I kind of agree with MC, and I think Haru was the asshole in this situation because it's true. Like, it's objectively true. Whether they work hard or not, like, they're going to be given their family's business, and she's not going to be given anything. She's literally here by herself. So I understand, like, it's obviously it was uncouth of her to say anything, but I understand the feeling, because if I've been in the situation...
Though? How can she prove, though, that that was going to happen? Like, that they're going to get it? Like, when you think about Ichigo's, Ringo told him no.
I'm saying, like, from her perspective of feeling that way, saying something was a mistake because you truly don't know the realistic situation. But her feeling like, damn, I wish I had that kind of setup. I totally agree with feeling that way. And I just feel like Haru could have said it in a nicer way to her. Like, sure, she was being immature, but I feel like it could have been a good moment for him to shine. And instead, he was just kind of a dick. And it kind of, like, turned me off. It's like, you're not going to sympathize with her at all and acknowledge any of your own privilege, because it's like, I don't know. Like, he could have been like, yeah, like, it's a great starting point for us, but X, Y, and Z is, like, the reality of the situation. So you have this wide open road where you can do anything, and we're kind of boxed in. And maybe then she would have understood, but there was no maturity from him in that situation and no sympathy for her.
I guess then we're still on the opposite side, because I wouldn't have had sympathy for her either, because who are you to tell me that I have something that you don't know I have? Like, yes, I'm working for my parents now. There's not a guarantee.
I agree she shouldn't have said something. I agree with you that she shouldn't have said something, but feeling that way.
But you're saying, like, well, he should have sympathy for her, but sympathy about, like, how is it? Because she should have said anything, but the idea is like, well, you should acknowledge the privilege. Like, okay, so I should feel bad for you that my parents gave me something? Like, how is that my fault? Because that's what it came out. That's how it sounds to me.
Yeah, but, like, that's in, like, a situation with when anybody just says it, but I feel like if we're in a romantic situation where this is supposed to be my love interest, I would want them to come at me with a little more sympathy in the writing, like, to make him seem like a better person. Like, not saying, like, fully logistically, if I'm just talking to, a rando or something, I'm obviously going to be defensive as well. But in that situation, this is, like, his lifelong friend, and, like, I don't know. It just seems, like, a little harsh, in my opinion. That's just how I feel.
Yeah.
But
no,
I agree
valid.
She shouldn't have said something. I just think I've definitely been in a situation where I see people get handed things and I don't, and I feel that way. I don't say anything, but it's like, I wish I could just get handed a retail shop and just get the income off of it for the rest of my life when I was like in real estate.
I get that. Like, I get why she felt that way. I can get the envy behind it because I felt that way myself. I get.
And so that's why I think I would have some sympathy because I felt that way. So it's like, I get why you feel that way because I felt that way too. But listen, it's really not what you think. I don't actually have this privilege. Or if I do have that privilege of some kind, I really am going to be given something. I'm going to admit to that and be like, I'm lucky. Like, I know what I want to do and it happened to align with this. And I'm, that's the truth of the situation. But you also have X, Y, and Z that's ahead of you. And that would have just been nicer, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think how I probably would have reacted would have just been almost, not exactly how, I probably would have reacted the same way because I would have just been like, don't tell me what I have because, and I think I would react to it as in the sense of like, I've been on the end of being told like, well, your dad just buys everything. And it's like, you want me to feel bad about that for what purpose? Like, that's not my fault. I can't change that this is what it is. I'm sorry that happened to you, but don't try to come at me. I think it's if it was said to me.
But I've seen you react differently in that situation. Like, for example, one of our friends, Damien, has struggled with like figuring out what he wants to do with his life. And both me and Jan know what we want to do with our lives.
Yeah.
We have a very clear goal and passion. And he's expressed like, you guys are so lucky that you just know what you want to do. Because I don't, and I just didn't immediately have that instinct like you guys did. And you came out with him with a lot of sympathy, and you were like, you're right, like, we just were lucky, and we found what we wanted to do, and we found each other and had this goal. And you're going to find it too. And you had a lot of sympathy for him, and that's how I would want somebody that I'm romantically interested in to react to me.
I think it would also be the tone, I guess. I think that's really that's where I feel it is her tone was accusatory. It sounded shitty. Like, you're mad because you're upset. Like, how Damien was saying is like, I wish I had this. And then how she came at it was like, well, you have everything handed to you. And that would be the flip. I'd have sympathy if it was like, I wish I had like more of a set path because it seems like you guys do and I don't. And then versus, well, you all have something that I don't. Like, oh, okay, what you want me to do about that? Like, that would be, I think, the tone of how it's said because I've felt on both ends. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not that I want to spend any more time on Haru. But.
No, but Haru is the one that we disagree on or not disagree on. He just made us annoyed the most. So like, this was like the most interesting topic that we have to talk about with Haru because this is something that you and I have talked about in the past, like when we were driving around or whatever, and I was like playing it to get through it. Because that was the only one I hadn't played. But whereas everyone else, it's kind of like, I love this, and then you're like, I love that too, and like that's it. So this is kind of like the most interesting thing that we have.
Yeah, no, I agree. But yeah, so anyway, that happens between the two of them. They go to get past it. They go to the arcade, which was a scene that really pissed me off because I want to go to the beach. But anyway.
Like, just write a quick beach scene. Like, wasn't that hard?
It's not that hard. So anyway, they come back. Then you go and find out that Haru is into, I think, Taekwondo, and you go to watch his match. It's a very important thing that this occurs because it's going to play a factor in later. Who makes that scene again is Ryu. Ryu is a comic relief the whole time. He's like such a good friend, loyal, like let's cheer our best friend on. But
do we do the Star Festival yet?
No, this is coming up because this is where Ichigo plays the biggest point. So the Star Festival is getting talked about now. Like it's supposed to come up. Remember when we were kids and we used to go and tie like our wishes to this tree, blah 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 blah. And she kind of has these flashbacks about when her and Haru when she got lost and Haru found her, when they made wishes together, blah 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 blah. But she also remembers Ichigo and how Ichigo was like always looking for her and taking her hand. And so my man Ichigo does the slickest shit because he likes her. He's trying to hang out with her all the time.
Unabashedly.
Sai has a birthday and Ichigo walks her home. And that's like what is the catalyst to it. So he's like, the Star Festival is coming up soon. And that's when all the memories come up because Haru doesn't walk her home, which is such a stupid, dumb move.
Because Haru has been walking her home, by the way, but because the little girlies at school are giving him a hard time about it, he's thinking in his head, I guess, like, if you're going to sugarcoat it, he's thinking, like, I'm going to protect her from the girls by ignoring her, but it's like, Dumbo, no, that's not how that works.
And Ichigo's like, sis, you want to act? Let's make a scene. So Ichigo walks you home, and then, like, your memories come up, and Ichigo's like, basically telling you that he likes you without actually saying it. And so then you guys are all studying, and my man, my lover, my number one dream, Ichigo, slides her in front of everyone, slides her a little paper, and he's like, psst, read the note. And the note asks her out to go to the Star Festival. And like,
it says it's a date.
She does, like, she knows it's a date, and he's like, she agrees to it. Like, she thinks about it, and she's like, oh my God, like, I don't want everybody to get offended. But then, like an asshole, she agrees to it. And she's like, okay, I won't tell anybody. So she agrees to go on a secret date. Like, bro.
But it's not going to be a secret because everybody in the town is going to the Star Festival. Sorry.
And so the only one who's like messy about it is Richie. Like, Richie knows the tea.
Oh yeah, he like calls her out on her bullshit. He's like, so you trying to 2-time them? Because she really is. Like, she's thinking in her head like, well, Ichigo kind of hot too, which I was thinking too.
The whole time, the whole route of Haru's route, I wanted to be with Ichigo. But anyway, yeah, so that occurs. And so then she like goes to the Star Festival. They go on the date, and like Ichigo's there for her, and then Haru catches them. So Haru's like, of course, like wah, 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 wah. And then she's like, I want to be with Haru. So they go on this boat thing, this boat ride, and apparently it's like a bad luck and to go on the boat ride with like the person you like or something. And they agree that they like each other and that they like basically want to be together. And so they're gonna like be together. Oh no, actually, what happens before the boat ride? She's at school. Haru's being like fake funky. But then for whatever reason, there's a molester around, gone out in this town.
I hate when they throw this in. This is a common thing Voltage does. That they're like, you know what? Things are getting a little dull. Let's throw in a molester.
I feel so bad though for Johji, because like they're like, come straight home. Like, I don't want anything to happen to you. Like, don't leave without saying anything. And she just does it. She goes by the riverbank and like, basically like the molester comes like kind of after her, and Haru comes like bounding about, but so does Ichigo. He's just like, yeah, like Ichigo's like a max like 20 seconds too late, and so then Haru saves her, and he's like, I don't want you to be with anybody. And they like get really mad at Johji. Do you remember that? And it's like so mean. Dude. And Joji's like, I didn't know she left. I didn't want her to leave. I run a business.
Like, there's so many, like, contentious fights in Haru between the cast. It's so weird. Like, and MC kind of gets chewed out a lot, too. Like, she gets chewed out for her outburst about, like, the whole what she wants to do thing. And then Johji ends up chewing her out, too, because he got chewed out by them. So he's, like, pissed that she went and did that.
I feel so bad for Johji all the time. When, like, I think there's, like, one point where Joji's like, Haru and Ichigo are gonna jump me. But anyway, so yeah, so then she gets saved, and like Haru's like, I realize like I want to be with you, and I don't want anybody else to be with you, so like come to my match tomorrow and like we're gonna be together. So,
and I was thinking when they did this, I was like, this is a little sus. Like, there's still like quite a few chapters left, and they're already just gonna be together.
But then she like feels bad because she doesn't want to like hurt Ichigo. But I'm like, if you really want to be like, here's what I'm gonna tell you. When I want to be with somebody, I'm gonna worry about hurting other people's feelings. Like, listen, this is my man, and like if you got a problem with it, that's too bad because it's my man.
If you're still thinking about Ichigo, it's because you like Ichigo better, because he is better.
So then she goes to tell, like, she takes Ichigo aside because he's like, Ichigo confesses to her and says he wants to be with her, and then she like is like, I need to tell him like what's good. So she pulls him aside at Haru's match and tells him like, hey, I'm gonna be with Haru. And she cries because Ichigo's like, yeah, like I saw that coming, and like it really hurts because I was in love with you, and like I'm just gonna wait a little bit longer, and like hugs her, and she's in tears. Like, what are you in tears for if you don't really want to be with Ichigo? That's so sus.
That scene, that scene got me riled up. I was like, I just want to switch over to Ichigo's route like right now.
So then Haru catches them together, which this part I kind of feel bad for him because it's like, can you imagine a girl you just said like, I love you, like we're gonna be together, and then she's crying in the arms of another man? Like, dude,
that likes her too.
Yeah, so Haru goes to do his match, but of course he's distracted, and in being distracted, he gets kicked in the face.
Literally karate kick to the face.
Kicked in the face, and then you rush to the hospital, and then everyone's like, oh my god, Haru, and he's like, wakes up, everything's good, except Haru doesn't remember anything about the last 3 months of you guys being together, which of course is devastating. This is the whole amnesia plot. You're going through day to day, and he kind of just treats you indifferently. And this part had me thinking, the way that he treats her is that he kind of had like no feelings towards her, which means that Haru's feelings for her, like they write it as like, I missed you so much and like I liked you back then, but the way that the amnesia plays out, it's like he didn't care about her like that. It just developed newly, which is totally normal. Like that's a thing that's fine to happen, but it's cheapens everything else.
Yeah, and like what about that moment with them at the Star Festival when they were little, when they had that promise with each other? Why did he not remember that when he sees her for the first time again in that vulnerable state in the hospital? Because you would think that would have been a cute thing. They
like don't do that.
They could have done it to where the walls were put down, because when he meets her in like the prologue and like how the beginning of his route goes, his walls are definitely up. But him being in the hospital and everyone surrounding him, his walls would have been down, so we could have seen like his true feelings. But it seems as though there were no true feelings, because he literally is just like blank face, doesn't really care about her. And again, during the situation, Ichigo now has another opportunity to slide it in, and it's like, why doesn't she just go for Ichigo?
And while she's like going through like this really tough, hard time with Ichigo and like how it hurts her to deal with all of this stuff, he's like very supportive and is like trying to help her get through it and like everything. And it's very just clear to me that Haru didn't really truly have deep feelings for her, but Ichigo still does, and is like helping this girl who he's in love with try to get back the guy. And then basically Haru like looks at his keychain and is like, oh my god, like I remember. And I don't know, it was just very lame, lackluster ending. I think she should have been with Ichigo. Like that would have been, I wish there was a third end that I could be with Ichigo, because as soon as I was done with Haru's route, I actually immediately went back to go play Ichigo's, because I'm like, Ichigo felt like the better, more loved love interest. I just don't think that Haru's was that great. So that,
and they also like bundle it very quickly at that point. And Ichigo's even still there at the end watching them from across the lake when they like confess and get together, and it just kind of like wraps up. It was just it was just weird. So let me pull up, now that you guys know the plot and what we're basing it off of, let's go ahead and go down the line for the things that we're ranking each guy on. So first of all, we are going from worst to best, so it's going to go all up from here. But we're going to be ranking the categories of personality, romance, plot, character development, and the MC, and how she came off in that route, each out of 10 for the total score out of 50, and we'll give you their percentage and their letter grade as well. So for Haru, I guess I'll start off with personality. We gave him a 6, which is honestly kind of generous to be real, because I really don't like his personality. He doesn't seem to actually have one. He kind of seems like just very polite, very two-dimensional. I guess the jealousy streaks in him were a little bit interesting, so he does get some points there. And he was a really sweet kid, like in the flashbacks. I liked his personality more there than when he was an adult, to be honest. But what do you have to say? Any added comments on that?
I think I like him as like a friend to the group. I think that he adds like comical to things. I think that he tries to be at least he's always consistently a good friend. I like that. I think that at least when she was getting bullied, he definitely did stick up for her and was like, listen, like that's not right. I'm not going to tolerate this kind of thing. So I think he's like a very good, best friend, but not romantic. And that's why he definitely scored lower.
Flat, yeah.
Definitely like game, no bitchless, It's like that's what it gave me.
Yeah, Mr. Bitchless for real. So do you want to go ahead and explain the romance one?
Yeah, so the romance, I think we were still really generous by giving it a 5. There was, I think, cute moments. So like I think technically, even though I didn't like it, the making the keychain thing was a cute thing.
The love triangle is a good romance piece.
Yeah, I think that was really
Ichigo.
good. I liked the Star Festival itself. I think that was so super duper cute. I liked, the
but the actual romance between them was low. Like
it was a very like it was just that she was going out kind of sad. She was like, I like him so much. And I think the thing is I think you had told me, like, you were the one who talked me down. I was just like, there was nothing that, like, she just liked him and I don't get why. And you're like, yeah, well, they're like 17, so that would make sense. But that like bothers me. So I'm like, I just don't get it. Like, why would they like each other? And you're like, that's actually a very common, normal thing. And I'm like, oh yeah.
I don't get though why she would like him over Ichigo, because it's like they're both, if it's all just hormones, Ichigo should have won, like 100%.
No, I agree.
But as far as like the romantic situations of holding hands, gazing into each other's eyes, eventually kissing or holding each other, that didn't very much happen. More so happened with Ichigo, even in Haru's route. So that is why it ranks so low. But it has the 5 points that are there because of the things that we mentioned previously. But going to plot, this is where we scored Haru quite high. We gave him an 8.5, and that's because, as you can tell, the plot was kind of chaotic. Like, it was kind of entertaining just on the fact that there was this love triangle going on. There was a whole amnesia situation. There were, like, all these contentious fights between the cast. So I think the plot was pretty good.
Yeah, I agree. We're on the same. But now when we get to character development, it's a 3 because nothing changed. Like, Haru was like the boy next door, super great. Everyone loved him. That's how he ended. So there was no like difference. He didn't get some like revelation of anything. Like, nothing changed for Haru. He just got his memories back, and that was kind of the end.
And the reason why we even gave him 3 points versus like 0, because if there was none, you would think that, but the reason we did give him 3 points is because he does develop a little tiny bit in situations. Like, he obviously learns from Ichigo moving in that he needs to be a little bit more forward, and so he does get a little bit more forward, but it all gets kind of wiped away when he gets amnesia anyway, so it kind of makes the little tiny bit of character development he did have feel completely pointless. So yeah, that's why it's so low. Moving into the MC, we gave her a 4.
She just was like always just running away. Like, I think the love triangle thing, like, she definitely should have been with Ichigo. She just kind of was like all over the place. And I just didn't like that. So she's got a 4 for me, and that's kind of it. And, you know, she tried her best, but it just wasn't good enough for me. Sorry.
Yeah, that's basically it. And so that all adds up to 26.5 out of 50, which is a 53% or a D-. So pretty much a failing grade at that point.
Isn't that enough?
Ooh, my bad, you guys. Typo. It is an F-. So it is 100% failing.
Bam.
Yeah, that's Haru. We're gonna go up from here. We're definitely not, this is not a scathing review. This is our favorite game. Like, from here, it's definitely going up. Moving into the character that got 4th, which this is one of our top characters. Everyone from here is a top character for us, but this is Rihito. I almost want to have you explain him as well, because I feel like he's like even higher for you personally.
Yeah, and then you can definitely do Johji and Ryuzo because they're higher than me. So Richie. So background about Richie is the MC originally thought Richie was a girl, and she constantly, even though everybody else is like, Richie's a boy, Richie's a boy, Richie's a boy, constantly is like, no, Rihito, she, whatever. So when she comes back, Richie is this cute little blondie who's definitely flirtatious.
He's so cute. I love his sprite.
So the private school, so he's the only one that doesn't go to school with you at the high school, and he's a year younger than all of you. Yeah, he's 2 years younger than Ryuzo, but a year younger than you. And Richie's mom is a pianist. She's a famous pianist, and he plays piano. He's really, really good at it. So you decide that you want to go like see the town with Richie, so you do, and Richie's just so flirtatious and is like, why don't we just date? And I feel like Voltage does this with all the blonde characters. They're either dumb and flirtatious, or flirtatious and very like sexually like
charged. Sly.
And Richie's actually a really good mix, as he's so flirtatious but cute, so you're just like, ha, cute, but you know what I'm saying? Like, if he was like a nooch uglier, you'd be like, listen.
I like though too that he kind of also like, he has the confidence and the flirtatious, but if you mix it with the energy of Watanuki from Inu X Boku, how he's like, I'm a delinquent, because definitely like I feel like Richie tries to be a bad boy, and like we'll talk about it more in character development, but he kind of comes out of it, and he really is a sweet kid.
Yes, I love when she's like, I just can't get over the fact that you're a boy, and he's like, I've always been a boy, like I didn't change.
That's why he comes on strong, is because the first thing she says is like, you're not a girl, and he's like, no, am I? Like, he like grabs her and like touches her and stuff, and
his, of all of them, I will say too, even though I love Ichigo and I'm a #1 Ichigo stan, his character design is actually my favorite, and I love his pouty face.
Saucy. I love him so much.
I love him. I hate his outfits though, I'll say that. Like his out of school outfits.
I like his school outfit though.
I like his like 3 years later when they're in school and he kind of cuts his hair and he's like the little pink outfit. That's like a mood for me. But after
that one's sauces with like that little dog tag.
Yeah,
so cute.
I love that. But anyway, so anyway, you are hanging out with Richie again, and the reason you hang out with Richie, even though like now you know he's a boy, you two were the closest in tandem because you thought he was a girl. So it's kind of cute because you're like, oh, I would take Richie everywhere, and now he's trying to switch the roles, which I kind of think is cute because she's like, but I'm used to leading you around, and now you're leading me around. Anyway, so you find out that Richie plays piano, and he has like kind of in a rebellious stage with his mom, and she's kind of like super harsh on him about it. Like,
And she's mean to MC too.
Yeah, she's a complete bitch. And so she doesn't want him hanging around with his friends. This is what I also love about this route is the ensemble cast, because they truly care for Richie's well-being and they don't want him to be tied down to the piano, and the MC kind of doesn't get it, and they're like, you haven't been here this whole time, so don't talk about Richie's passions. And she's like, God, I just thought he like wanted to do this. Anyway, as it progresses, his mom is like kind of trying to isolate Richie from all of them, but he sneaks out. And so then he decides he's going to play the piano for the town parade. And you're like super excited. The guys though were like, I'm not really sure that that's going to happen. But like,
because doesn't MC kind of offer it up? Like they say they need a musical act, and like it's kind of funny because all the guys, like Johji's like, I can't sing, like, and then MC's like, but what about Richie? He plays the piano and he's like so good at it. And then he kind of just goes along with it.
Yeah, and they like, she volunteers everybody else, and they're like, I don't even know why you would do that. So anyway, the day comes up, and basically Richie decides to not show up, and casually, just very rudely plays it off when he shows up later, and he's like, I just didn't decide to go and like let down my friends in my town. Like,
and all of the friends are like, wow, I can't believe, like everyone's like kind of pissed at him.
Yeah, and he's like, oh, like I guess I was wrong, like, oh my God, like shame. But then he does come around and is like, I was really awful for that. And then his mom basically like treats him like Rapunzel and like locks him away and all this stuff. And so he just wants to get away and never play the piano again. And she's like, you should do this because you love it and I want you to be happy. And he's like, I just want to like, be with you. And they have a lot of cute romance moments where they're just hanging out and talking about how like he lost the drive to do the piano kind of thing because of everything that's going on with his mom, and that what he wants to do is do piano, teach piano, but in an enjoyment kind of thing. And so Reno, one of my favorite side characters of all time, Reno, which is Ryu's youngest sister, she's like, oh, I'm gonna have like piano at my school, why don't you do it? And that's where Richie kind of does piano for the first time again, and where he's at the helm of it and controls it with the MC's help. She like arranges everything. He's playing the piano because he feels so happy to do it, and then he decides like, I'm gonna confront my mom, and that's that. And he does with the MC's help, and he walks out with her, and they go to his like favorite sanctuary, which is a church, and they basically say like, you know what, we love each other. I love though that everybody else is so pissed off that Richie pulls her, because they're like,
everyone can't believe it.
They're like, you thought she was a guy, like he was a girl, and like now like just sneakily he came in. Like Ichigo and Haru are the most mad about it, and oh my God, I love in Johji too, and everybody else is around. He's like, it's like it kind of ruins it, like him in his own route for me, but he's like, it's like watching my daughter just get whisked away. And it's like, Johji, Take always comments on it like, you do know you're only like 10 years older than us, right? Like you're not that much older.
Like stop trying to make yourself seem like a dad. But yeah, and I love that church scene too, because it's just really beautiful. It has like the stained glass windows in the back, and they kiss, and it's just really romantic. And also, we didn't really mention the flashbacks too much, but they're mostly just kind of like him hiding behind her and her standing up for Richie, and that's kind of what she does in the route as well. And he has like little piplum stockings, like little he just looks so cute. He does look very feminine.
I just love though that she's such a support for him and to standing up to his mom, because his mom is a biatch and she kind of recognizes. She also basically says like, this is one thing that they kind of do that did not make sense to me. She's like mad because she wants Richie to not like fall in love and like go off, but like she fell in love, and then Kayla just disappeared, guys, so 2 seconds.
Sorry.
What it do, shorty? Anyway, so like Richie's dad basically like dipped out on his mom and him, so you would think that she would like hate music. That actually, now that like it's like the wheels are turning in my head, like that would seem to make actually a better, stronger plot as to why he would want to play the piano. Maybe it's like his mom barred him from it, but they didn't. I do like though that he teaches like the younger kids, not girls specifically, but like he teaches younger kids. That made him sound creepy.
I know, you're like, whoa.
wait.
He likes like the preschool teacher element of things, because it brings back his passion, and he's selecting music that he likes that's going to bring joy to his audience. He's not selecting the most difficult or nuanced piece specifically to win awards and get recognition like his mom was doing. Which is kind of what was killing it for him.
Yeah, and he decided he actually, and hanging out with kindergarten class, because he does it multiple times as he's teaching the class and does the recital with them. With Rino's class, he decides he wants to be a teacher, actually, which I think is so cute. Rihito kind of reminds me of Naoki.
Yes. Yeah, I believe like I had just played him when we were kind of talking about what we would do with Naoki. And that was kind of what got me the idea to say that when we were initially like, maybe he could be a kindergarten teacher.
Pianist. Yeah, that's cute.
Yeah.
I just want to also say, we do know how to say our own characters' names. I've seen stuff being said.
Okay, this is an intermission for a little rant for you guys before we go on to like ranking him and stuff like that. I have a lot to say. So me and Yang decided we would post a video pronouncing the guys' names, and I said it multiple times, like in the description, in an American accent. We have American accent voice actors, so we were pronouncing the names in an American accent. Not in an incorrect American accent, but just the way that you would say a Japanese word correctly in an American accent. Kind of like how you say spaghetti in American accent and not an Italian accent just for that one word, because that would be at best pretentious and at worst culturally insensitive. So yeah, we had some people say like cringe L, like we hate the way you guys said that, get a Japanese person to say it because you clearly don't know what you're saying, because we said Minoru instead of Minoru, and that would have just been weird if we said it in a Japanese accent, because that's not how our voice actors say it. We didn't pronounce it wrong. Like, we didn't say Kiyosaki instead of Kyosuke. Like, we said it correctly. Yeah. We just said it in an American accent. Thank you for coming to this TED Talk.
And done. But yes, so now let's get into the ranking. So I'll start with personality. So we gave him an 8, and the reason why I feel like I decided on the 8, and I think, you know, you can give your comments as well, but I feel like Rihito's had some he's younger, so he has just immature moments that like still even kind of towards the end that happened that I just didn't like ditching the friends, and he didn't truly apologize to the group. He did, but he mostly did it to get back on the MC's good side, not because it didn't come across genuine to me. And I think that kind of just was like, eh. And then like, I think the flirtatiousness for me, I'm like, tone it down a notch. Like, we're together, don't do me.
Yeah, him talking to the other girls and then, yeah, just not having the drive enough to go ahead and help his friends was the doc for me. But everything else, he's like a very entertaining personality. When he's on the screen, it's a scene just them two. It's totally entertaining enough. Unlike Haru, who needed the support of the ensemble cast so bad, or we wouldn't have been able to get through the route. And moving to romance, we also gave that an 8, because we thought it was good romance. The scene in the church, like we described, it's very memorable, that kiss scene. They do have a lot of like skinship contact, like within the game, that you can get those butterflies going if that's what you're looking for.
Yeah.
But why would you say we didn't give it a 10? I guess I can say what I think. I think it was because they weren't together enough, because he got locked away.
Yeah, I would say the same. I think that they didn't have enough time together, so it just felt more like they pushed like the end, like, well, this is this and this and happened, when they could have just had more romantic scenes. It was more focused on like kind of getting, you know, Richie to like stand up to his mom and like dealing with all of that. So I just felt like the romance could have been better.
Yes, agreed. And that kind of goes into plot.
I think the plot was kind of just not, when you compare it, I think, to like
Even
Haru's too, like Haru's has multiple moving parts. Rihito's, not that it wasn't a huge thing to deal with the parent thing, but when you look at how Ichigo was dealing with like his own parent struggles and sibling struggles, and then Rihito kind of just had this thing with his mom and like the ditching and not having a true passion to something, it's like, okay, but like I think that there could have just been a couple more added plot to that. I'm not sure what it honestly would have been. I think, again, what we kind of mentioned earlier, maybe the idea of like him not being allowed to play music and him like wanting to so bad would have made the plot, even if that's just the only thing, like so strong, because it's so important.
To me, to measure up to the other guys, I would think that it would need like a twist or something, because all of the other guys have some kind of like a twist, like a third act kind of situation, like, oh, my brother's moving in, or oh, I'm gonna get amnesia, like something. Like, as much as we didn't like Haru, he scored higher than Rihito on plot, because as you can just see, we spent way longer talking about Haru's plot than we did talking about Rihito's, because there wasn't as much moving parts. It wasn't a bad plot, so that's why it's not like extremely low, but 7.5. And then going to character development, we did actually give him an 8.5.
Yeah, I think like being able to stand up to your mom who's like that and dealing with that kind of like Stockholm syndrome thing. And then I also would say going from thinking someone's a girl to a boy and kind of having to prove the point. And then I just think that his development really was solid enough to stand up to his own mom and deciding that whether or not this is what she wants for me, I don't care because I'm going to do what I want. And I liked that for him.
And the learning to be a better friend, too, to his friends.
Yeah.
And be a little bit less selfish, because he was kind of... And it makes sense that he was a little selfish in the beginning, because he had to kind of go from having very low self-confidence when, like, she thought he was a girl back then, and he was kind of the crybaby of the group, to then gaining all this confidence. So he had a lot of self-focused work that he was doing, and he kind of forgot about his friends, and she kind of helps him go to that. So he has a lot of character development even from back when he was a kid to now. So yeah.
I would say this MC, so what really knocked her down for me was most definitely the way she just refused to listen that Richie was a boy. I know that it's like meant to be like it's funny, but it's like this shtick wears off after a while, because it's like, we get it, like you thought that, but like at a point they say something, so that started it with me. I just didn't like that, and it made the flashback scenes weird, kind of, because it's like everybody else gets these like super cute moments where they like bond, and then it's like
hers is like a babysitter simulator. It's like a little weird, and she does this is kind of a character flaw that she has as an MC overall, is just that she tends to not listen when people say something. And she just kind of bulldozes it with her opinion of something, like kind of what happened in Haru's. And then even here in Rihito's, the guys were trying to say, like, no, like, you don't understand. He needs to have the freedom to do what he wants. And she's like, well, he's good at it, so he should just pursue it. Like, it takes her a little bit longer to get told something. It's like, when everybody who's grown up around him is telling you something about him, just believe them. Like, that's it.
When somebody shows you who they are.
Yes. When everyone around you is saying, this is a man, and you're like, no, like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I agree. So it docked it down, and so that basically sums up the total of 39.5 out of 50 points, and that gives him a 79% or a C+. So I personally love Richie. I would play Richie pretty much over, like, if I was playing in terms of like my favorite biasedly saying, it would be Ichigo, Richie, Take, Johji, Ryuzo, and I would never play Haru.
Yeah, and so that what you just described is actually the order in which I played the characters first. Exactly what you just said. So I think that's the starter appeal for me. I ended up having a really soft spot for Johji and Ryu, which we're going to get into right now, because Johji is number 3 on the list.
I should understand, because you're going to talk about Johji, but I actually was very, very resistant to playing Johji. Like, I'm not into the older... I'm not...
You say that, but you are now. You like to teach yourself
okay.
now.
I will say this. I was like, anytime she would talk about it, I was like, it ain't for me. Like, stop trying to convince me of that. I'm telling you, it's not that good of a route. It's weird, blah, blah, blah. And then I played him, and I was very pleasantly surprised. I was like, dang, like, I'm going to eat my words. That's so insane. Like, I went into it waiting to play hate. And I will say, as I've played more games, like, okay, so... Utano Pri, the teacher, definitely my type. Like, oh my god. And in Hakuogi's Sweet School Life,
whenever I talk about teachers, she would be like, ew, L, disgusting. And then now she's texting me like all these characters.
I'm like, you know who changed my opinion about teachers?
Who?
Aizawa. I love him. And also number 1, Gojo.
Yeah, I mean, he's the best teacher ever. You still need to play freaking, is his name Shu? I don't even remember his name anymore,
I actually still have that route, just not played. So I should probably like do that. Get her together.
Next podcast, I'm calling it right now, is going to be you and I playing a route of the other person's choice. Done.
Yes. Oh yeah, because you're gonna play Kyohei.
Yeah. I still haven't played Kyohei in Scandal. But anyways, we're still off track in this one, but I knew this was how it's gonna be for Dreamy Days. So Johji Chakura. I hope that's his last name, and I hope I'm not wrong, because it's been a while since I played his, but I played him many, many times. He is the owner of Black Ship. He's a history buff, so Black Ship is kind of themed after history things, and it's kind of a cute little thing because Take also is kind of into history. So Take and Johji kind of have a cute bond, and somewhere in the route, I can't remember specifically where, Johji actually gets a little bit jealous of Take because he's like, oh, he's more age appropriate for her. I think it's like towards the end because at first Joji's not giving MC the time of day. He's like respectable. He's like, I've been called to be her guardian, you know, I'm just gonna do that. But, you know, they're living right across from each other and there's like a tiny hall between them. So things are happening pretty much right away. Like when she goes up there and knocks on his door, he's like shirtless. Like that's like the first CG I think you get of him, and he's like fixing his hair or something. And I remember you texted me when it got to the part and you were like, damn, they're just getting right into it in this route. But then it's kind of a slower burn. After that, she's kind of just helping out, working in the restaurant, serving customers. She helps come up with like a new dish, I believe, kind of early on for him because he's looking for something that he can make with the ingredients that he already has for other dishes, and she comes up with something, so that was kind of a cute thing. All of the guys are kind of disappointed that she seems to be so interested in Johji pretty much right away, because she is. The thing that he does to comfort her, because she's like, you know, nerves going back to a new school and everything, is he always makes her a mug of hot cocoa. And this was kind of, I guess, scandalous, but he does put alcohol in it. I think like pretty much right away. I believe you texted me about this too, and she was like, I don't know about this route, but she turned around. But yeah, he's drinking something, and so he gives her a little bit. It's nothing crazy, and then he puts her to bed or whatever. It's nothing.
Yeah, he puts her to bed. Sorry. Not like that.
But anyways, I think the next like story beat that happens is the flood. They're having a typhoon. And everyone's freaking out, and Johji ends up having to leave because he's like on the little committee for the town, and so he's going to do his part. And every single guy calls her in her room, and I thought it was so cute. Like each guy, like Ichigo, like, are you okay? I think Ichigo was the first one because he loves her.
Yeah, because he's always the first one.
He is like the actual canon. We'll get to him last. You already know it's last. But she starts getting really scared because the power actually goes out in the apartment, and she's kind of hiding in her room and freaking out. And he finally gets home. He comes and like hugs her. He's all wet from the storm, and it's like a cute moment. But then as she's kind of just living with him and going to school, you start to see this woman come into the shop named Akari. She comes in and like kind of talks to Johji and whatever, and then the boys, I believe, in the ensemble cast, I don't remember which one specifically, say, oh, isn't that his fiance? And you're like, yeah, his fiance? Like, what do you mean? So disappointed about it. And I believe you talked to Johji about it one afternoon, and he's like, oh, it's not like that or whatever. And you kind of believe him, but you don't know. And then one day at school, a black car pulls up that looks really fancy, and it's Akari, and she's like, come in the car. And you're like, okay. And Ichigo's like, don't go in the car. Like, are you kidding me? And she's like, I'm gonna do it. And you're like, okay. So she just gets in the car with a stranger. And obviously Ichigo like rushes to Black Ship to tell Johji what's going on.
I could just see him like bounding. Like, dude, do you know what's going on?
He probably tried to get the car and it was too fast. So he's like, all right, skirt. I'm gonna get
He's so cute and a good person.
Yeah, so cute. All the boys shine because, like, you could just see how protective they are of her in this route specifically, especially because they don't really recognize her as having a love interest because they don't really think it could be Johji at first and then till the end.
Yeah.
But
I honestly think, though, that they have a group chat about her, about how stupid she can be.
Yeah, they definitely do. They 100% do. So this part is where it gets a little fuzzy for me. Maybe you recall because you played it more recently, but I believe when she meets with Akari either A, tells her to stay away from Johji. Yeah, that's what it is. She never says she's gonna marry Johji. She just says, like, listen, I think it would be best if you let Johji go. And she's just like, why? And she doesn't really understand why. And it turns out it's because Johji is actually from a very prominent family, like a huge financial conglomerate, and his like dad or grandfather is about to pass away, and they need him to like stop working in a cafe life and like get his shit together, suit up, and like come help the family. And they ask Akari, and they think the reason he's being held back and like blowing off his father's car, which is why Akari even came to the cafe in the first place. It was not because she was supposed to be his fiance or whatever. It was because she was trying to convince him to like help out his family, because she's like from a rich family too. And so MC is misunderstanding all of this, though. She's saying, like, you don't want me around him because you're jealous, and, like, you want him for yourself. Like, that's how MC takes it. And she's like, and you're a much better choice for him, so I should probably just leave. And then this also gets fuzzy. Like, I don't know the timeline of things. I know how it ends up and things towards the end, but this middle part, I'm, like, kind of foggy on, to be real.
There is, like, the reason why they're upset, too, in a sense, because his brother comes and, like, confronts it, too, and he says no. And they blame you, the MC, is because he agrees to all this and is, like, a pen pal with your mom, which is what you had said it earlier. And that's, like, they kind of associate the two together, but they're not, like, really listening to Johji's wants, and you're upset because Johji's been lying to you about it. Also, in the flashbacks, it's kind of important, too, is that, like, Johji, like, because he's 10 years older than you, like, you'd always call him
JJ
and stuff, so you don't know that that's JJ, so it's, like, a kind of important thing, I guess.
Future Kayla here, popping in, because that is really important to note timeline-wise, too, and why she feels so strongly about Johji. So I forgot to mention that just like all of the other boys, she also does get flashbacks with JJ, aka Johji. When she first comes to town, unlike the other boys, she doesn't remember that she had a past relationship with Johji as a kid, but by chapter 2, it gets triggered, so pretty early on, we start to see the flashbacks, and it's him as JJ around middle school age when she's in elementary with all the other boys, and he also frequents the Octopus Park. He liked to cook even back then, so he does make sandwiches for her, and that's what triggers the memory, actually. So in chapter 2, he makes her the same sandwich that he made as JJ back in the day, so she recognizes him, and then the flashbacks all come through, and she remembers that JJ was actually her first crush when she was a kid. And from then on, she just starts seeing Johji differently and starts getting really frustrated that he doesn't see her that way. She starts asking her friends weird questions, like Takeshi, for example. Well, Ryu's little sister Rino has a crush on Takeshi, and there's times throughout the route where little things happen, and basically all of the guys' stories between Rino and Takeshi. So MC is like, well, how would you see Rino? Like, could you see yourself falling for her when she's older? And he's like, no, I don't know. So that's another layer. And then here I do kind of get into JJ's connection to MC's parents, so I'll let that roll. Yeah, and he's kind of an asshole, to be honest, when he's a kid. He's like a little shit, because come to find out, he did like Akari back when he was supposed to be her fiance. Their families wanted them together, and she wasn't in love with him. She liked somebody else the whole time, and he was really sad and down and depressed about it. But MC kind of cheers him up, because she's like this little kid and is like, I want your sandwich, and like he ends up making her the sandwich, and then her mom has Johji come in to the house and like talks to him about like the situation he's going through, and they become pen pals.
Doesn't the MC like link that as that like that was his past hurt love, and that's what really triggers her to like run away, because she's like, he could be with her and he still loves her, you know? So
yes, so no matter what they say to her about her Akari having somebody else, it doesn't get through to MC. So as you see again, this like, no matter how many times people tell her something, she doesn't believe it until she gets some grand gesture, basically. But yeah, so that's the other thing. It's like, I kind of made it seem different than it is, and you pointed it out. Like, the reason that everyone thinks that Johji is being held back is because he's in care of her. Like, she's like, he's basically taking care of her since she's 17 and in the house going to high school, and she has one more year left. So he doesn't want to leave and uproot her life and have her move somewhere else. Not because they're in a relationship, because they are absolutely not at this point. MC just has like a secret crush on him, secret admirer, super in love with him, and he is not really giving her much, to be very honest. Also, a key moment happens where she kind of tries to say how she feels to Johji, and he blows her off.
I would have simply passed away.
And honestly, she was like, you know what? After basically everyone saying I'm holding him back and he doesn't even like me, what am I doing here? I'm just causing problems, so I clearly need to leave. What she does is she decides, I'm going to write a note for all of my friends, because, you know, I'm leaving, and I rekindled, this is my favorite part of his route. I've rekindled with everybody, and like they've all been so good to me. She writes a heartfelt note to each and every person. She's like, Ichigo, like, thank you for always protecting me. Like, Rihito, like, you're the best. Like, all these cute notes to everybody. And then for Johji, instead of writing him a note, she simply puts the recipe for the menu item that she's been making since the beginning, because he was wanting to add that new menu item, and she'd kind of been the one doing it. He never made it. She only did it. So she's like, he needs the recipe. And that was
you would think this is supposed to be cute, and it's not. Like, can you imagine? All of the guys came in and they're like, oh my god, did you get the letter? And Joji's like, no, I got the recipe. I know they clowned for days. They were like, wow.
Wasn't there, like, did we make this up in our head, or isn't there a scene where everyone's like, my letter says XYZ?
No,
and
we made that.
Are you sure there's not at least one scene? And they're like, did you get a letter? Oh, no, or
yeah,
Joji.
He says it. He's like, they came in like flaunting their letters, and
yes,
you and
Joji
I made up a group text scenario of how it went down.
Yes, that's what it is. Johji just basically tells her secondhand. But anyways, she flees to London. So then that's where we get the idea that perhaps she had been living in London that entire time. We meet her parents for the first time, who I don't believe appear on screen. But they're extremely like lovey-dovey, and it makes her just annoyed because they're doing this and her love did not work out at all, and she's like heartbroken. Then all of a sudden one day they have a guest at the cottage, and the guest is obviously Johji. Obviously the mom's been friends with her. The dad is like, this is who's been taking care of our daughter, this like extremely attractive, elegant man. Like, what are you talking about? And then the mom's like, oh dear, like, it's fine. I knew this would happen. Like, as if she planned it. So this was another contention point we were talking about, because we're like, so is the true ending Johji because the mom sends her off to Japan in his care on purpose? But I just don't think they wrote it out. I don't think that was necessarily a big gotcha moment, but yeah. At that point, Johji comes back. He says, like, he wants to be with her. He says, I was already in town for a friend's wedding, and that friend was Akari. She got married to the person that she loves, like I've been freaking telling you. And MC's like, oh, so you're not in love with Akari? And he's like, no.
If I say it one more time.
He's like, when I was in middle school, yes, but not now. Like, not now.
I would kind of be annoyed if I'd be like, so the only reason why you came was because you were going to a wedding. Like, would there have never been another reason to come and get me?
Yeah, the writers did it out of plot. They clearly just wanted to be able to throw in that thing about Akari so that she could really get it driven home. But yeah, logistically, like in real life, I would be like, oh, so that's why you came, not to get me.
I would have ruined it, the whole moment there. Like, oh, okay, so like you didn't come here to be with me. You went here because Akari got married. And you had to watch the love of your... She says that. Remember? She's like, that must have been so hard to watch like the love of your life get married. And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I was like 10.
I know. He's like, if you don't shut up. But anyways, the final scene
Michael, shut up.
The final scene is he sneaks into her bedroom at her parents' house. And they're in their pajamas. And he kisses her on the head and says like...
The fact that her mom, like, not her mom, I could see her mom seems scandalous, but her dad was just like, nah, that's cool. You, a grown-ass man, could stay at our house. Like,
well, at first he had a problem with it. The dad was like, what are you talking about? Like, our daughter's 17. And the mom was like, oh, dear, you remember us back then. Like, it's fine.
He's like, but we're the same age.
I know. He's like, okay. Like, he just kind of gets poo-pooed off. But yeah, he basically, Johji alludes to the fact that even though that he wants to do more with her, he's just going to kiss her on the head, and that's going to be it, because they want to keep it PG. But that's the end of his route. I thought it was cute. It surprised you.
Yeah, it did surprise me. I will say the reason why, and I think, like, specifically speaking, like, it's her going after them. If it's, like, reverse, I think it's weird. Like, I don't like it that way. So I would not be, like, if it was the opposite, where he was, like, heavily pursuant to her, I would probably be like, no.
Same. If he was kind of like one of those that's like high school girls, like I would be like, absolutely not. Like, I like the fact that he's hard to get. That's why I liked his route so much. I think when I first played it, I was like, how is this gonna happen? And then I love the fact that he like ignored her and treated her like a kid, because it made her just like, oh, I'm an adult, I love you, like, notice me, senpai. I just love that whole theme of it. But getting into the ranking for him, personality, we gave a 7.5.
So Johji has basically no true personality traits. Like I couldn't, like he's a history buff. I think that was super cool. I like that he was pursuing like, I want to run my own cafe and I'm going to do this on my own because I want to. And I like that. But outside of that, he doesn't really have much of like a true personality. He's really nice. And like,
he's like a caretaker kind of.
There could have been like, obviously in the other seasons of stuff that there's more development of it, but I just didn't feel that in his route. I felt like kind of was the same throughout and that was just what it was.
Yeah. And it was kind of one of those situations where he's already living his dream and his passion to have this cafe. So you're not getting as much like development or dynamics to his personality, and you're not seeing him discover himself. So there was really no need for them to put it in there, I see. But that did make his personality come across a little bit unknown. So yeah, that's why that's a 7.5. Then we have romance, which we also gave a 7.5 because, as we said, MC is basically having it all in her head. She's pursuing him in her head, kind of, and trying, but it's not really working out. There were some really sweet moments. Like, I love when he comes back from, like, the typhoon situation. I like when she first sees him and he's shirtless. It's, like, kind of a heart-thumping the way that they wrote it. In the end, when he kisses her head. But, you know, there's just that barrier there because of the age that they can't fully get as romantic as, for example, it was in Rihito's.
Yeah. But we did both agree that the plot was a 9.5. I think the whole plot, like him, you know, hiding away from his family, him dealing with the Akari thing, the plot twist of like, are they together, are they not? The brother situation, him flying out to go see, like, and kind of get her back. Like, there were so many moving parts to that, so I liked a lot of that in totality. He kind of reminds me of, like, in a sense, like a small piece of it, because he runs a shop, is manager for Maid-sama.
Oh yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
I was also surprised to learn that he had like a rich family, and you could just all of a sudden all this depth came through from that, because it was like the way he's portrayed in every other route is just like very carefree, and that is who he wants to be, but he has these like shackles from his family that made it very interesting from the get-go. Then for character development, we did give a 7.5 because while he does develop in a sense that he realizes he needs to help his family a little bit, he ends up deciding to help them on the weekends and kind of finds a happy medium, but it's kind of done in the background. MC doesn't really push him to get there. Akari kind of more so does, and his brother. So it wasn't a focal point of the route, his character development. Yeah,
I think they do, instead of showing it, they just tell it. So it just was not the most helpful in my opinion either. So yeah.
Yeah. And then for the MC,
we gave her an 8. I think her brattiness, I think leaving the country and dropping out of school over a man seems a little extreme. But like,
that's where you dock the 2 points. But
I also didn't like that she left him a recipe. I don't know why that really pissed me off. Like, girl, if you like, I get in a sense like where she was like, I like you, and he kind of dismissed her feelings, and so like that, but like the best you could come up with and how you felt about him was like, this is the recipe that we shared together, so we'll always have like our memories kind of thing. I would have been mad. I'd have thrown that shit away, like
and it like embarrassed him with all the guys, which was so funny. But I did like the MC, because the reason why she is an 8 still and not like even lower based on the way we're describing it as bad, but she's has the courage to pursue him in the first place, which is huge. Yeah. She is able to match his pace when it comes to conversation and even more complex topics. She's able to get in there. And then the fact that she even had the confidence to try and say something to him, even though like it was kind of one-sided at first, I just felt like it was mature, and she came across more relatable even to an older reader, since we're not 17 obviously. I still felt like I could resonate with her, and I thought that's a good sign of an MC. So 40 out of 50, just 0.5 above Rihito. Like, they're both great characters, obviously.
Johji's route got a B-.
Getting into Ryuzo, he is Himbo King. Absolutely love him. He's also perceived to be a delinquent, but he's obviously not. He just kind of dresses like one and looks rough, so that's kind of the first impression that you get. So basically he works at the vegetable shop and he's selling fresh veggies all of the time, and his mother goes to the hospital because she gets in like a motorcycle accident. So, and he has a big family. It's like him and his dad who mainly run the vegetable shop, and then he has 3 other siblings, and so they're having trouble like keeping it together, because although Ryu is like knows about vegetables, he's not a good cook, and neither is the father, and all the kids are like complaining about their cooking. So MC, when they find out that she can cook because she's like helping out at Johji's restaurant a little bit, I believe, in the beginning, like she's like there to make them meals and like work in the shop with him. She basically like lives with him at a point. I think she technically lives with Johji, but she's always over there helping the kids. And she develops like a nice bond with each of the kids, which I think is really sweet. Like Reno, for example, I switched between calling her Rhino and Reno because this was my first one, so I didn't actually know much Japanese when I first played it. So I read it as Rhino. I believe it would be Reno though, based on what I know now. But she loves Take, and it's the cutest thing because he's like so stone-faced and she's just like in love with him. And then the middle kid, I forget his name, he loves Sai, which is Haru's little sister, and that's adorable. And Haru obviously hates that because he's like super protective of Sai. And then the older sister, she doesn't like have a character that she likes or anything, but she just is kind of struggling with certain things and really looks up to MC, so they have a cute relationship too. But MC's giving them all advice on different things and cooking for everybody. And she kind of struggles to get necessarily close with Ryu because he does kind of put a wall up. It's kind of him being a little dense, to be honest.
He runs with that bicycle gang though, and so like when she goes after him, he doesn't want her to be around because then it'll bring her image down.
That's true, because like he has like an image around town of that, and that kind of ends up changing when news reporters capture him like selling vegetables at the shop, and he's really hamming it up and selling the vegetables, and all of the girls at school see him on TV and change their opinion of him and think he's so cool, and they want to buy tons of vegetables. So they're all going and buying up all the vegetables, and they're actually throwing them away because they didn't need them. They just wanted to like impress Ryu. When Ryu finds that out, he ends up like chewing them out and saying wasting food is not good, and like they all stop coming around. But that's like a little bit of a plot.
Hey guys, Kayla from the future here. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to overdub this part because I completely confused the main story plot of Ryu with the epilogue, and the remainder of the time I say that the main plot of the main story is about this new grocery store coming in across the street and this whole rivalry, and none of that is in the main story. So what actually happens is, piggybacking off of this section, which I say is only a little bit of the plot, this is more so the main plot. So during that time frame when Ryu's super busy with the vegetables and those girls are all coming and throwing away the vegetables and all of that stuff, two things happen. For one, MC helps out because the store is busier, and a guy catches notice of her while she's helping out at the store and starts stalking her. This happens pretty early on, and he appears almost every chapter at one gathering or another because he's been stalking her, and all of the guys are aware of this. They try to make sure she's never walking home alone or anything like that. The second thing that happens is, because the girls see Ryu with MC, they begin to bully her at school more heavily. So originally in the beginning, Ryu already was kind of keeping her at his arm's length because he ran with the biker gang and he didn't want her to get a bad reputation because the principal of the school is always all over his case. But he moves past that, obviously with the whole thing with his mom and MC always being around. This time, now that he's become a heartthrob and she's getting bullied, he really doesn't want anything to do with her because he doesn't want to give her a bad image or contribute to a bad school life for her. So MC makes him lunch and continues to and tries to give it to him every day, but he's just like, no, I don't want your lunch, and Take ends up eating it for her to make her feel better. But then one day when she's going to bring something else to Ryu to just try and get back into his life somehow, one of Ryu's sisters finds MC on the way in the street and says that Ryu is sick and that they need help with cooking because of that. So she goes and helps them out, and Ryu comes out of the room to try and cook something because he thinks that it's going to be his responsibility since he's basically barred MC from coming to the house at all. And he catches her cooking and tries to yell at her to get out, but the kids kind of help and say like, you make disgusting food, and she's just trying to help. And also MC is like, you need to rely on me sometimes. I'm not going to go away even if you don't want me around. I don't care. And she pushes her way into his room and feeds him some porridge. And we get a cute moment between them where he kind of reveals that he doesn't like to rely on other people and he doesn't like to cause problems for other people. But MC convinces him that everyone wants him to rely on them more because he's always been the leader of the group and always done a lot for them. He's resting up and MC continues to take care of him at the house, and her and the younger sister, well, I guess it's the older of the sisters, but it's still younger than Ryu, the junior high age sister, and MC go to the hot springs together. As soon as they leave the hot springs, that stalker appears again and tries to make a move on MC, but Ryu stops him and comes just in time and then ends up walking MC home. When they get to Black Ship, there's a cute scene where he dries her hair for her like he used to when they were kids. And from there, MC and Ryu finally start having more romantic scenes and kind of getting closer to one another. Though unfortunately, one night, MC ends up walking down the street by herself at some point, and one of the guys wasn't available to walk her for whatever reason, and that's when the stalker strikes. He finds her, he mentions that he was watching through the window when Ryu was drying her hair, so that's extra layer of creepy. He gets her into this forest area and tries to rape her with a knife. That's when Ryu shows up and stops him, but they get into this scuffle where he punches the attempted rapist, and the attempted rapist ends up fleeing and getting to a police station and trying to say that Ryu was the one who came up and tried to steal his wallet and attack him. MC tries to clear everything up, but the police aren't really listening. That's when Rihito comes in and says that he has photos and to believe MC's story. He also pretends he's just a passerby, so it looks like he doesn't have bias, and that ends up working. Here's a short clip of us talking about that.
And Richie fakes and lies and says he has like evidence that he doesn't actually have. It's actually the most random plot point.
It came out of nowhere because it's like all scary because they're like, is he the rapist? Like pointing at Ryu because like he looks like a delinquent. And she's like, no. And she's like, and the police is like, shut up, Ryu. Like, we're talking to her. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Rihito comes in and he's like, I have evidence. And like the whole, like he didn't even like when they leave, she's like, wow, I can't believe you captured the whole thing. And he's like, I didn't. I just made that up.
I love them for that though. He's like, nah, I was lying. If they would have caught me, I would have been screwed. Like, and it just like goes away.
It just so happens that after this point, the principal ended up getting word that Ryu punched somebody and was taken into the police station. It was gossip around the school, and he's going to try and expel Ryu. MC steps up and tells the true story for him, even though Ryu tries to just take it for what it is. And after that moment, you can sense that Ryu is really starting to like MC. There's a flashback to when they were younger and they shared their first kiss. There ends up being a scene that kind of mimics that in present day where there's thunder going on and rain. Ryu attempts to confess, but then he ends up setting up a date where they go on a motorcycle ride and they have a picnic back in that old treehouse again. And there he actually confesses in a very clumsy but cute way. And that is how the main story season 1 ends. All of the stuff about him wanting to own the supermarket and go to business school in order to do so happens in the epilogue. So if you hear me mention that when we're talking about the ranking, that's why. Just ignore it. But yeah, it's true that they do drop that plot point by season 2. Okay, back to the episode.
I have to mention this, it's not going to affect the score because we're only talking about first season, but Ryu's second season, they completely drop everything that they did. They make him 100 times dumber, and they make him decide that he wants to be a teacher. Like, out of nowhere. Why do you want to be a teacher, sir? Your whole entire passion. Like, they completely dropped the vegetable shop. Who runs the vegetable shop? Just his dad, I guess. Like, that's it. But I loved his first season. Everything after that is kind of garbage and not worth your time. But the first season is totally worth it. And just so you can, like, fall in love with him. And then when you're playing specials, you'll enjoy him more because you've played it. But let's get into our ranking for him. Do you want to start with personality?
Yeah, so personality. So Ryu's actually also a Virgo, so it really hurts when they make him like 100% dumb later. But I like that he was really true to himself and that he was like all about the vegetable shop, that he called out those girls for throwing it out, that he didn't want like basically fake fans. Like he was like, no, this is not right. I like that he wanted to take care of his family, and that I think that he did genuinely like care about the MC's reputation and didn't want to drag her down, and is a very loyal friend, because there was like the neighborhood watch when the creeper was out and he like called her and was like so serious about it. I think what took it down was just that, like, I don't know, he's kind of sometimes stiff in a way.
We scored him the highest so far on the list for personality, I believe. I think the highest before this was an 8 with Rihito. So we gave him a pretty high score. So there wasn't like much to dock, just like 1.5 points, because it was a little bit there was some times, and then like it's not affecting this, but I do want to stress, like, I think they must have gotten a different writer for the second season, because the more we just talked about it right now, I think he does actually suit a Virgo in the first season, because he's not actually dumb, he just is dense when it comes to romance, and he cares about his family, and he's focused on those things, which is, I believe, Virgo traits. But when it came to the second season, they took that denseness, they didn't take into account the other qualities, and the writer just went completely off of that. Like, he doesn't know words anymore in the second season. It's very, very
yeah, like they just took one thing, because I just can't imagine like him and Daichi being like in the same room.
Right, like definitely not.
Yeah.
So then what was next on the, it's
romance.
Personal romance. Went for 7.5. I think I personally wanted a little higher, but you were like 7.5. You had a good reasoning though for it.
I think that there were like the flashbacks were great, but there was just not romantic moments. He was so focused on like, it was the plot that was the heavier part about saving the shop, being there for the kids. That's and true. Like there was more romance between Reno and Take than there was between her and him. And like in her mind, she liked him and was making him the lunches, but he just wasn't in pursuit of that. That wasn't his
They kind of saved it all for the end. Like,
yeah, so the end was so cute.
That's why I initially was thinking of it higher, because I have like really fond memories of his ending and like the confession scene. I thought it was like one of the cutest in the game, but that's all you're getting. It's not getting sprinkled throughout. Like even as compared to Johji, like even then they had more sprinkled out. Whereas with Ryu, it's really just all at the end. So then going to plot, we gave him a 10 for plot because there was really nothing we can think of to dock it. Like I said, it's only that they drop it for season 2 that I would say is a negative, but we're not letting that affect it. As a standalone plot, I think they killed it. Like every aspect was good.
Yeah, I agree. For character development, we scored it an 8. I think that, you know, Ryu realizing that he needs to have more from life and what he wants. I like that he decided for himself to like, I need to also relax and know that everything doesn't have to fall on my shoulders. I can depend on others. I really liked that for him. I think that was like the only thing though that was a development. I think there are huge points. That's why he got an 8. But outside of that, there wasn't need for much of a character development.
Yeah. And for MC, we gave her a 10 for this because she genuinely never does something annoying or wrong in this route. She genuinely is a huge support to Ryu. She cares about him and encourages him in every way. She's not overly pushy either, and she makes these really like long-lasting bonds with his entire family, which is, I believe, very important for a Virgo romance. Like your family is everything, so it's important for her to have done that, and she nails it. Like she really cares about all of the characters in his route and makes a true effort to make sure that they get their best ending too. So that's a 44 out of 50 and 88%, or a B+. Now we're going to Take, which is one of Jan's personal favorites. So
He's one of my favorites. Yes, I'm gonna go a little bit quicker because we're getting a little hefty of the time. But yeah, so Take is the gray-haired one. He's really quiet. I love his little like niches. He's into history, but he's also really into ninjas. That's his whole thing. He's been into it since they were kids. He likes to play ninjas, and all his flashbacks talk about them playing ninja and making mud balls to be ninjas. And so when you come back into town, he's just reading his shonen like Jump and stuff, so he's into that, and he's kind of like indifferent towards her. He's like, whatever, it's no big deal.
Can we mention too his child sprite, like just for a second?
He has a bowl cut with like a little alfalfa, and it's so insane. Anyway, so the bath doesn't work in your house, so you have to actually go to an actual bathhouse, and the closest one is Take's. And so then you didn't bring any money, and so Take's like, okay, well, if you work here, you can use the bath for free. And she's like, I guess. And so I like that between them. So she starts working at the bathhouse to like earn money to take baths, and she doesn't have a job, which they don't ever address the bath thing like later. It's just like eventually whatever. So his grandma's around, and she's like really into hula and stuff. And so
she's the sweetest character. I love her.
Yeah. So then Take's like, I think I'm going to join the track team again. And so you like meet this girl who seems like very obsessed with Take, and you kind of feel like some type of way about it. And so then she convinces you though to join as a track manager, and so you're like, yeah, I guess like I'll do that, like to keep an eye on them.
Doesn't it start with him helping Ryu's little brother, because he wasn't on the track team at first, and it like inspires him?
They decide like, oh, why don't we like start this thing where we like help people do stuff? And so like basically Ryu's little brother who likes Sai wants to like get her and like land her and stuff, so they're like, oh well, the best way to do that is become like a fast runner, and he agrees. And so then Taki is like, I haven't done track in like a really long time, and so he helps the little brother, and through doing that, which is so cute because like Sai like loves it, and like MC and Taki like help, and they kind of get closer through that, and are at the bathhouse. They have like a bath scene where like they like clean the bath together and like spritz water at each other. But then after Taki like helps the brother, he realizes that he misses track, and so he's like, you really helped me, inspire me to like want to do it again. And there's like a little character trait that I like about Taki that's so funny, is that he's actually gets motion sickness. Anyway, that'll come up later. So then he's like deciding to go and start training for track again. The reason why he quit too is actually a really cute reason. It's not cute, but like it's kind of heartfelt. So his parents are working really hard, and then his grandma isn't able to do the bathhouse, so he felt it's like his obligation to work at the bathhouse.
But now that MC's there, it's a little easier.
Yeah, he can go back to doing track. So he's like, I'm gonna start doing this and like really pursuing it. And then before the MC actually joins and does the manager dream, because she kind of gets like all jelly, the grandma's like employs them and is like, I just want to find my like long lost love, so like if you guys could do that, that'd be great. And so they actually do, like Ichigo says he's reluctant but joins in, and like they do pursue it pretty heavily to try to find him, and then they can't at first, and then they find out that he's like in this neighboring city. I can't remember what city it's in.
They like literally look for every person with that surname like in the area.
Yeah.
Their little coalition to be do-gooders is so cute that they all make.
Yeah. And they go on this overnight trip to go to this thing and like to go find him, and they kind of find some good leads. And so then at night, her and Take slip out of the hotel together because like there was too much trust, in my opinion. Like Johji doesn't go with him, like nothing. She's going to stay with 4 boys in an overnight trip. If that is not the beginning of a Pornhub title, I don't know what is. So then her and
that happens again in like quite a few specials.
Her and him go out at night together and like kind of explore the city and get these keychains together. And I think this is like one of the most romantic things that happen in the game, other than like one thing that happens in Ichigo's. But like I think that's so cute. Like they snuck off together, they like keep it a secret and don't tell anybody, and like they end up reporting to the grandma like, we didn't find anything, and she's like, I wasn't really expecting you to, but like thanks for trying. So anyway, there's this big marathon that's coming on, and like the winner gets to be on TV, and so Taki's like, this is a good chance to basically like go on TV and try to find this guy, like my grandma's first love. So they're like, yeah, train. Well, like the MC is like always with Johji preparing like these really good nutritious meals for Take, since she can't see him all the time. And then he gets like somehow a weird idea because of Johji saying something really stupid, so that she actually likes Johji and not Take. And then he sees them together and gets really jealous and is like straight up like, well, if you want to be with him, like I guess I support it. And she's like, what?
That's
like,
so funny because in
random.
Johji's it's the reverse. Like Johji gets jealous of Take. That's cute. I think that's kind of a cute little note because they're like the closest friends, Johji and Take.
So he comes in like 3rd place or something, but still gets to talk on the TV. And then he decides like, I want to be a professional runner, and so that's what I'm going to pursue, which I really like think is cute. Then like they confront each other, and he's like, well, if you want to be with Johji, like I'm not going to stop you. And she's like, stop being so complacent with the idea that I would be with somebody else. Like I obviously want to be with you. And then he's like, okay, like I obviously want to be with you too. And then he gets over his fear for
swan boats, right?
But he gets sick because he gets the motion sickness. But then he's like, I'm willing to suffer if that means I can be with you. And so like they're like together, and then that's kind of basically the route, and it's like really super duper cute. So
yeah, it's super duper cute, and you guys will probably notice like how well paced that was compared to the others. Like I think they do a really good job of like slipping in romance and plot like very nicely. So when it comes to the ranking, we gave his personality a 9.
Yeah, he's like
Strong,
quiet and
solid.
laid back, but I think like, so sometimes it wouldn't be like everybody's cup of tea, but it was definitely mine.
Yeah, he still has a lot of good character traits, and they gave him a lot of details that they don't give other characters. Like, he has this sprite where he actually holds the Shonen Jump because he's really into that. Being into the ninjas and the history of things and the way he chats it up with Johji. They just do a little bit extra for him, and I think it really paid off. Romance we gave a 10 because as we described, as like there's many romantic moments. The bathhouse scene is one of my favorite. There's like actually a CG where she's like, he's spraying her, and then it's so cute because Ryu actually finds them when this is going on and is like, gets so embarrassed. He's like, oh my god, I didn't know it was like that, and it's like he runs away, but it's just so cute. And then plot 10, like you heard the plot, it was perfect. 10. Character development, we did a 7.5 because he doesn't necessarily develop that much.
No, he's the same. Like, basically, like, his development is deciding to not feel pressure to not be like a track superstar, and like the motion sickness thing at best, but like he basically wasn't on the track team, then joined the track team. Like, that's kind of it. Like, he doesn't do like something so spectacularly like 365 changes his personality.
Yeah, but he still has enough good enough. Like 7.5 was where we landed for that. And then the MC we gave a 9 because the way she helps him out and everything is great. The only thing that we docked was like for that situation with that other track manager, that once again she has to be told over and over and over that that girl and Take have nothing going on, and they actually end up becoming friends, the girl and her. So yeah, it's 45.5 out of 50, a 91%, or an A-. And now we get to the best part of the video where we talk about our man's Ichigo. And I want you probably to explain the plot because you're just more cohesive with that.
Yes, so Ichigo, who's the best. So Ichigo is a tsundere, like a classic Tsun. Love him. So she comes back into town. He just like starts like insulting her, but everyone is just ganging up on him like, oh, you still love her. Like, that's why he's so mean to you. He's like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Because there's a scene in every other person's flashbacks where Ichigo clearly loves her.
Yeah, he's like in love with her in every route. As she like learns now, Ichigo is like the popular one in the school. He's like the delinquent. All the girls like him. He's kind of also really against like the town. He's like, this town just is dumpy. Like, I don't care about all this stuff. And it really bothers everybody else about it because they're like, you should have pride in your town and like whatever. So anyway, he decides like to show her to the cake shop and makes her work, but she gets really impressed watching him work because she's like struggling, and he comes in with his little bandana and he's like, boop, I'm a boss.
Pronounces
like,
all the French bakery words like perfectly. It's all the little shop moms are like, oh my god, Ichigo, they love him.
Yeah, so he basically ropes her into working for the shop, and she's like, what? And he's like, I mean, yeah, you're gonna just work for the shop, you don't have a choice, because I want to go have fun and do things on my own. But Ringo, which is Ichigo's dad's name, he's like, no, that's not how it works. Like, yes, she's gonna work here too, but like, you're definitely gonna still work here as well. And he's like, oh,
they also
that's so
don't
awful.
Pay her, they just give her cake. Like, which I thought was crazy. And Ichigo is like, here's your cake, pig, like, since you're fat, like, this will be your payment.
So then the first night, it's like the first or second night, her floor caves in, and so she can't get in and out of her room. So she needs to basically like, Johji's like, we're gonna have to figure out where else you can stay, and I don't think you can stay with Ryu and his sisters because they're already like kind of at capacity, but maybe that's the best option. But as she's like almost about to like fall into the floor, guess who her knight in shining armor is? Like, that came running to come get her is Ichigo. So Ichigo goes and like saves her and like carries her down, and he's like, well, Togo doesn't live here anymore, so you can just like stay with me, I guess. And it's so cute because like,
yeah, so Togo's the older brother.
Yeah, she doesn't even think twice. So she goes to stay. They call her auntie, but it's Ichigo's mom. Is like so excited that she's gonna have a daughter around. So Ichigo at first tells her like, oh, like, don't tell anybody about this shit, but then ends up telling most people. And he's like, I mean, yeah, like, she's staying with me, but like nobody needs to know that.
He's like, I don't want to be seen with you, but also I'm gonna like walk you to school and walk you home.
Like, yeah, so then they go to like school, and he's like, I think baking is lame and it's not cool. And then he makes like this incredible sponge cake, and it's like, if you hate it so badly, like, what's tea? So then like, she's just like, oh, like, you could be so great at these things. And then there's like a town flea market that happens, and Ichigo is like, I'm so super duper against it, and I'm just gonna ditch, so you're gonna work for the show, like, you're gonna work in my place, and I'm gonna go play video games with everybody else. And so then Haru is like, basically like, Ichigo's just so hard on this town, and like, I don't get why. And so she finds him at the park later and kind of scolds him and is like, you're just such a douchebag about this. And he's like, you don't think I know that already? Like, God. And like, they kind of get into it, and then he's just like, I'm gonna try. So
before, also, isn't there like a little seedling that starts where there's like one of the principals really freaking hates Ichigo, and it's during that time when like he makes that fantastic sponge cake at school. Somehow like something happens where like he ends up covering for MC, and like the principal like scolds Ichigo, and like it happens again and again throughout the route.
Yeah, because they're like late or something, and so he's like, oh my god, like it's not even a big deal, whatever. So like that, he kind of takes up for her, and it plays off later. So anyway, basically like Ichigo and Ringo keep getting into it, and like Ichigo's mom is like, I just want them to get along, and like I don't understand. And so
it's because they're the same way though. Like Ringo is just very much like Ichigo.
Yeah, so he never says Ichigo does anything right. So Ichigo shows her how to make like macarons, like the little hamburgy ones. And so he's like, watch, I'm going to show you. Like, he's going to say yours are good because you said you made them. But as soon as he knows it's me, like, it's a wrap. And that's exactly what happens. And then, like, they're just, like, hanging out all the time and, like, always, like, bickering, but, like, cutesy. And they, like, hang out at the park. And, like, he goes, like, do you remember, like, our promise? But she doesn't. And so he's like, well, you need to remember, like, keeps reminding her. So they hang out at like the octopus park, they're doing like the baking stuff together.
Also,
and then,
they
like,
live together, and like sometimes he'll like sneak into her room and like talk to her about whatever. Like,
yeah,
it's cute, it's really cute, guys.
And then Johji basically is like, oh, your room might be done soon, and he's like, you don't have to go home, like you could just stay with us, it's fine. It's like, it's so okay. So then, like, in between, as, like, things are somewhat improving with him and his dad, and he's, like, working in the shop. And then she's like, oh, why are you working in the shop if you don't want to do it? And he's like, because you're going to make us go bankrupt. And then, like, he's always feeding her the cake himself. Like, he's like, oh, like, you have just these cute moments of, like, feeding each other, all this stuff. So then, plot twist
and doesn't the principal catches them one time doing something cutesy like that, and, like to suspend him or something?
Yeah, he's like threatening to, but like Ichigo's like, nothing's going on. And then he's like, don't worry, I'll protect you, like no matter what. So then he's like getting close with her, and they're like joking, witty banter, and kind of like box everybody else out. And they're like, yeah, this seems like right up their alley. So then like Ichigo almost seems like he's about to like kind of confess to her, and then his brother comes home, Togo.
Literally, this blew my mind. I was like, we're taking a left turn when this happened.
Yeah, so Togo is basically like the prized fave brother, and like is always leaving, gets to do whatever he wants, got to have all the freedom, while Ichigo had to shoulder the burden of like possibly taking over the shop because Ringo holds that over him, like all this stuff, and like never helps out and just like leaves. So Togo, everybody calls him like basically a flake, and they know he's gonna be a flake, but then he's like, I'm here to stay, I'm gonna help run the shop, Dad. And like,
and MC's Dumbo ass believes him, because even though everybody's saying he's a flake, she's just like, he doesn't seem like a flake, he seems so nice.
And so Ichigo's like not about the shit, so he kind of goes back to his like bad boy, like delinquent ways. Like, I'm just gonna ditch this shit because like everybody's always on Togo's side, which I kind of understand. Like, that's fucked up.
Yeah.
So then Togo's like, oh my god, Togo's so great. And so then finally, like, Togo does what he always does and is like, I'm finna ditch. Like, I'm gonna leave, and I'm not gonna even say anything really. Like, I'm just gonna get out of here.
And what's worse is MC has convinced Ichigo finally, after a long time, that maybe Togo's not so bad, and now Ichigo can kind of do what he wants to do, and Togo's really seems to be stepping up this time. And Ichigo finally is like, well, okay, like, he likes MC and he like believes her. And then this happens.
Yeah, he wants to improve his relationship with his brother. So then, like, Togo tells her in his room, like, in her room or something, and is like, just like, he's like, shh, don't tell anyone. And she's like, what? Like, you can't just drop a bomb on me like that. So she tries to, like, she asks Togo to meet up with her at Black Ship again, and is like thinks like she can convince him. She's like, okay, like, fine, I can't convince you, but like, this really did hurt Ichigo, and like, you have to understand all the pressure on him. So like, at the very least, like, you need to tell them like what's good. And he's like, I don't need to tell him anything. And she's like, dude, you're dumb. Like, oh my god. So she's like kind of goes off on him, but then she also feels bad for Ichigo. So when this is happening, Togo clearly crosses the line and like takes her hand. He's like, you're just so cute, like maybe you should be with me. But right as that happens, guess who walks through Black Ship? Ichigo. Yeah, so Ichigo catches them and is like, he was like so hurt feelings. So he's like really mad at her, like mad at MC and Togo, and he's like, plays this shit off and is like, doesn't talk to her, like avoids her. And then the principal catches them again and she's like, Ichigo, talk to me, like I just want to know what's going on, like you don't understand. And then the principal's like, are you two really dating? Like there's been like moments like seeing you guys leave the same place together. And she's like, before she can defend herself, Ichigo's like, I just want you to know, ain't shit going on between the two of us. She can kick rocks because I don't like her. Why would I be with a gross girl like her? And she's like, okay, a simple fuck off would have sufficed.
Even though all the previous interactions principal has had with them, it's like he clearly likes her. All of a sudden he's like, no, she's stanky. It's so hard because MC's already so heartbroken. Oh, I felt so bad.
Yeah, so then she like confronts him and she's like, you don't have to do that. He's like, I didn't do that for you. I really don't like you. Like, you want to be with Togo, so that's good. Like, be with Togo. And she's like, excuse me? Like, what are you talking about? He's like, you're a liar and I saw you two together. And she's like, I didn't even lie. Like, I don't know. But she doesn't want to tell on Togo, which is like kind of the flaw that happens.
So stupid.
Because it's like, I would have snitched. I would have snitched immediately. So then, like, she moves back in with Johji, and, like, Ichigo doesn't even tell her goodbye. And she's, like, miserable. Like, doesn't want to hang around everybody. Like, just so sad all the time. And, like, the guys get mad at Ichigo, and they're like, stop being mean to her. And he's like, I'm not being mean to her. I just don't like her. And they're like, that's being mean. And so
they're
then,
like, they know he's lying, too, because they know he loves her forever.
So they all tell her. But I can understand why she doesn't take it at face value, because he's, like, being so profusely mean to her.
This is one time where she's right.
Yeah, so then she remembers the flashback of that they were supposed to see no, they actually already agreed that they were going to go see the fire, like the meteor shower together. And so then she still hasn't remembered that they did this as a kid, but she's like, I'm so glad they were going to see it. So then it's the night of the meteor shower, and so she goes out on her own, but Joji's like, I think it's going to rain. I don't know if you know that. And she's like, I can't not go. So she goes to the octopus park where they were the last time when they had their first kiss.
Because it started raining, so she has to stop there, and she can go into the octopus slide to, like, kind of duck and cover.
Yeah, so then she's, like, in tears, just, like, crying her eyes out, because she's like, I just lost, like, the love of my life. And then
fucking raining.
Who comes into the octopus park with an umbrella is, of course, Ichigo. And Ichigo's like, I talked to Togo and he was telling me I was a total idiot. Like, he was just leaving and I caught you at the wrong moment. And she's like, yeah, you really are an idiot. He's like, you're a bigger idiot for not remembering, like, all of those years ago when we first, like, had the meteor shower. And she's like, I remember now. And, like, I just want to be with you. And then the rain stops, they go out and the meteor shower starts, and they of course kiss and say that they love each other and that they're gonna be together, and it's just the cutest route ever.
It's so cute. Like, come on. Like, you heard what we just said. It's the best route. And how we ranked him is we gave him an 8.5 for personality, because although we really like Tsundere's personality, he does go a bit far, calling her like a pig and dusty and stuff throughout the route.
Yeah, so I don't think you have to go that far.
And he is kind of like really mean about his town and like wants to be the cool boy. He does develop, obviously, but yeah, the personality is what docked it a little bit, but everything else was great. Romance was a 10, because as you freaking heard, it was a 10. Plot was a 10, because as you heard, it was a 10. And then character development, we gave a 9.5, because it took a little too long for him to figure certain things out, which is why we didn't give it a perfect 10. But he really does develop and come around, and I think.
Yeah, I love the relationship development between him and his dad, because it plays such a significant part throughout the game, and I loved that. I love how supportive, like, that he tries to be, like, even though he misreads the situation with Togo, he felt that Togo was the better person for her, and so he was willing to self-sacrifice, and that made me like, just like brings a tear to my eye. Like, that's so sweet to be like, I'm in love with you, but if I think you're in love with my brother and I think my brother's the better person, I'm gonna let you be with him. Like, come on.
And he does that, and that's like when you realize he does that in every other route, because he knows that MC loves this other guy, so he just has to like grin and support it. And the way he feels about her always is just like, ugh, I just love him.
Because me, I would ruin everybody's relationship. I'd be like, you're not happy. You're not going to be happy.
If you can't have her, no one can. Then for MC, we gave her a 10 because she really stays mature. Even when Ichigo isn't, she doesn't fall back mature and punch down with him. She is an example for him. And she works really well. So that gives him a 48 out of 50, which is a 96%, A freaking plus, perfect. Definitely play his route. It's like so good, especially if you like Tsundere's, if you like anything we talked about. I really think, even though, like, if you haven't played this and you didn't think you would, so you decided to watch the whole thing, like, and you're spoiled on the plot, you could still enjoy it, because I've played it over and over. I still enjoy it.
I love the game.
But before we sign off, it is like midnight where we are now. I just want to briefly talk about the fact that they have so many amazing specials and after stories in the app.
Yeah.
Which is a part of why we love it. For me personally, I wrote down like a few that I really liked. Dreamy Days and Hot Springs was really interesting because they all go to a hot springs together and it ends up being like a mystery. Christmas in Finland is cute. I also love A Ski Trip to Remember. That's cute. Lovesick Valentines is one of my favorite. And West Tokyo is for lovers, if you're looking for recommendations. One that was interesting, but I didn't necessarily love that we both got was Mission Protect Her Heart, where they work for a gaming company all of a sudden.
That was so randomly bad.
That was so like, they go random with it. But did you want to mention any specials or after stories you really particularly liked?
Yeah, I don't remember the names of them. I know one was like the time that they had their first drink together. I actually really liked it. It was just like the different experience, and like that was super cute. There is one, it's Ichigo centric, but basically so Ichigo does not go to college like the rest of them. He goes to France and is pursuing basically his patissier and like all of that, and it's like basically in between that time. And I thought it was so sweet because of how they made the long distance work, and then like the friends visit him, and then like when they come back together and how it's this like great reunion that they love with each other. I like this one where they do a bridal magazine together. I thought that was just so cute. It was so cute.
I forgot about that one. Yeah.
They did this crossover, and so I had never played at that point when I got the special, was like Kissed by the Baddest Bidder, but it's on Ichigo, so Ichigo's getting you back from the bidders, and it's just like so like,
what? That's cool.
I liked it. This other one I liked, it gave me the very heavily inspired for currently Yo's Valentine's Day special, is that they go on a show, basically like the lovers game kind of thing, and like that's where I got it from. Yeah, so that's if you ever play it, and you'll definitely read like and then know what Yo's is currently, like damn yawn. That's like where I was heavily inspired for that.
If you play Snow Kiss Romance in its current state, you'll definitely see a lot of influence from Dreamy Days in West Tokyo, because it was like it was my first, and it was one of her first games, Otome games, and we took a lot of inspiration from it. Obviously nothing's copied, but it's just you can see the vibes like that were inspired. We definitely wanted to give off that same vibe of comfort and just like wish fulfillment and just a nice story. It has great plot in a sense. I think it has a great plot, but it doesn't have an overwhelming scary plot.
Yeah, I think it's one of the games that you could play that it completed really well. I think that it's a very good intro game for if you've never played Otome. It's a good game to just pick up on the fly. You don't need to be so worried about following the plot. You can pretty much catch it at any time. So if you play like season 2, like you're not completely lost. You would kind of not understand certain things, but whatever. I think that it's just a good game overall. I think, yes, the plot holes, but I think it's one of those games that you can completely ignore the plot holes and still very much enjoy the game.
It's not built on the plot holes, so it's okay that they're...
Yeah. This one is definitely more, I think too, when I think of like Otome, it's so romance heavy in a lot of things, and I think sometimes people think romance means like dates. No, like there's so much good romance and love feeling from it that you don't need to have. I think some of the other things that games offer, they're just not overly sexual, and I don't personally want that from this. It would be so weird if they decided to.
I believe season 2 is like when they usually have that their scene.
But it's actually their scenes of how they do it is actually really romantic and love, like it's just a loving feeling that you get. So if you're wanting to feel the love and the vibes and the warm romance, this is definitely the game to do that in.
Yes, and that's a really good thing to point out, because I know a lot of people, when you say like plot to romance balance, sometimes people equate romance to like sexual stuff, and that's not what we mean. It's really just like the writers do an excellent job of making your heart race and making you feel like, oh, and like gripping, like that kind of romance.
Yeah, I think this just, even the special, they really just go and give you so much. It heavily, I think, and you can obviously, if you feel the same, it heavily inspired me writing even to this day. Like when I think of specials, I think of how kind of Dreamy Days does a lot of them, and it's inspired thoughts of ones I want to do and things, and ones that we plan. I'm like, I like just the ensemble cast and things. This game gave me such a precedence of things I want to do for future games. So I think this game is such an inspiration even till now, and I'm probably gonna go to sleep now playing it again and again and again. I just love the game. So yeah, I was so glad. The
branding's adorable. I'm so glad that I found that game because it's literally what brought me here today. I would not be here doing this podcast if this game didn't exist. So
yes, that is super duper true. So
on that, we will just sign off.
Yes, I'm glad we finally got to do this one.
I know that you can see why it took us so long, because you do need time to dedicate to making this, because this was like 2 hours. I might cut it down a little because I think we like paused a couple times, but it's probably going to be close to 2 hours no matter how you slice it, because we have a lot of good info. But yeah, that's it for us. Catch out for the next one where we're going to be playing games that the other recommended and giving our thoughts on that.
Yes, and one last time, if you've gotten to this far of the video, I hope you have. If you've watched it this far, definitely check out our Ko-Fi. We definitely want to bring more games to you guys. We have so many more ideas. It's just so hard because we work full time and we pay for everything out of our app. And not saying that other people can't, but we want to give everybody just the games that we have coming, all of the specials we have coming. So definitely, if you can support our Ko-Fi, if you can't support, if you don't have the ability to, no problem, but definitely like, subscribe to our videos. And, you know, if you can always like and retweet our tweets, that would be super duper awesome. We have so much more new stuff coming. So yeah, until I guess next time.
And if you somehow are still here, leave a coffee emoji in the comments so we know you somehow watched this entire thing. But yeah, we'll talk to you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Bye.